I knew we had to get some off the island, he says. Nick and his Mauritian colleagues leapt into action, combing Ilo Vaqua and 3 other islets for fit young adult specimens. They worked in the dark to find the lesser night geckos, which, as the name suggests, only come out at night. Watching him in broad daylight, tiptoeing ninja-like in search of darting reptiles in the long grass, I'm amazed they ever managed to find 30 of the nocturnal creatures, along with 30 Boger skinks and 6 Bhutan skinks, bringing the 3 reptile gangs to live at Nick's place on Mauritius. He had to seal off his spare room, building racks and units and installing ultraviolet lights. Each species has its ways. The lesser night geckos, only 5 centimetres long, soft and brown with distinctive white chevrons, can be shy. They avoid the feisty Boger skinks, twice as big, with shiny golden brown scales and bags of attitude, says Nick. Then there are the Bhutan skinks, darker in colour and super fast. Great fun, but a nightmare to capture, he laughs. But crashing at Nick's place was never going to be a viable long-term option for the creatures, and so it was decided to send them to Jersey Zoo's world-class reptile facility. Remember, at that time the world was still in COVID lockdown. Nick managed to secure the loan of a private jet from a local businessman, packing the VIGs, that's very important geckos, in egg cartons in thermally insulated crates for their long-haul flight. The team at Jersey Zoo have created what they call ARC populations of the 3 species. It's all about preserving the gene pool, which will help them cope with challenges like rising temperatures after their return to the wild. Earlier this year, Nick and Deepak planted the repatriated eggs in plastic tubes with little slots for the hatchlings to emerge into their rocky habitat. Later, Nick sends me a photo of a gecko no longer than a fingernail hatching in his palm, which brings home the incredible nature of the whole enterprise. But why go to such extremes for a bunch of tiny geckos clinging to some far-flung rocks in the Indian Ocean? Because these delicate ecosystems also support humans, says Nick. Remove one and the system starts to crumble, creating cascades of extinction. The more we can restore, the better it is for humans. On the boat back to Mauritius, I survey the rolling bamboo mountains, imagining those distant days when dodos still roamed the land. The birds were doomed to extinction, but the geckos are still here. Long may they remain.
Lorraine Mallender with our last story for this week. I'm Pascal Harter. The producer was Polly Hope, and we'll be back again next weekend, so please do join us then here on the BBC World Service.
That was the BBC programme from our own correspondent. I'm Saroja Coelho. Have a great day.
Good morning, Manitoba, and hello, Winnipeg. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio. Thank you so much for joining us on 89.3 FM, 990 AM, on that app and on YouTube. We are getting for a rainy day, like a really rainy day, across most of southern Manitoba for sure, a little bit across the province, but 15 to 25 millimeters of rain expected in Winnipeg, gusty winds, and the temperature is going to be right around 9 degrees. It's actually going to fall to 9 this afternoon. Brandon with periods of rain today, 10 to 15 millimeters as well. Thompson, though, mainly sunny and a high of 11. So it is mostly southern Manitoba here. In fact, there's a special weather statement that has been issued. Some parts of the province today could see 30 to 50 millimeters of rain likely by tomorrow morning. So this is most of the areas in the western Red River Valley and the southern Interlake. So welcome to your Wet Monday, and thanks for being with us. The show is Information Radio on CBC 89.3 FM, as mentioned, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. The YouTube producer is Darren Marash. Good morning, Darren. Good morning to Abby Adiyemi, who's behind the controls and covers the weather on the air here. Morning, Abby. And good morning to Corey Funk, also going to be in our control room directing the show and covering your wet commute. Get the wipers on. Okay, let's go to headlines now. Heather Wells is in our news center, 2 minutes to 6. Hi, Heather.
Good morning. Well, new numbers show more than half of people let out with an ankle monitor in Manitoba end up being rearrested or breaching their conditions. But experts and people who are involved in the system are divided on whether those numbers mean this program is a success or a failure. We'll hear from both sides coming up. And a group representing Manitoba Crown attorneys has walked away from negotiations with the province. The union filed a grievance back in 2023 calling on Manitoba to address heavy caseloads by increasing wages and recruiting more Crown prosecutors. Those stories and more coming up in our next local news at 6:30.
All right. Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you.
Thanks to the team also for pinch hitting for me, so to speak, due to a bit of an issue I had last week. So appreciate that. All right. Let's talk about winners. Elmwood, East Kildonan has a new councilor, city councilor. As of Saturday, Emma Durand Wood's win couldn't have happened possible without the help of her 8-year-old door knocker, cutie patootie kid who helped in the campaign. We're going to hear from him. We're going to hear from her later as well, live. And a technical glitch in Canada's national dental plan wrongly approved 70,000 people. How did it happen? We'll hear more in the first hour of the show.
On cue.
As one of the most acclaimed opera singers of our time, Renee Fleming has sung at some of the most prestigious concert halls, but she'll tell you she did it with severe stage fright.
White knuckle it through a performance. You're just thinking, oh my God, how am I going to do this?
She'll be here to talk about that and how it inspired her to look at the connection between music and health.
Q with Tom Power. This morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on CBC Listen, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young.
Have you had any contact with President Trump since Thursday?
I have not.
Prime Minister Mark Carney at the ASEAN Summit this morning in Kuala Lumpur confirming U.S. President Donald Trump left the talks without speaking to him. That prompted a flurry of questions about the future of Canada-U.S. negotiations and whether a trade deal with the Trump administration is even possible. The CBC's Murray Brewster was among the reporters in the room. He joins me now. Murray, what is Carney saying about the state of the Canada-U.S. relationship?
Well, the fact that they haven't spoken, it's not a good sign. And Trump said on Air Force One today that he doesn't want to talk to Carney for a long time. The Prime Minister says that he's going to make himself available at any time to talk with Trump, as he would with any other world leader. He also says there's a plan B if talks don't resume, but the Prime Minister declined to say what that contingency would look like. Carney also says that Canada provides a number of essential goods and services for the U.S. economy and that talks will resume when it's appropriate. It's been suggested by some of Trump's senior advisors that the Ontario government ads are just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the U.S. frustration with Canada, and that this could be about more than just the ads. However, Carney says we should take Trump at his word and that this is about the ads.
Murray, if that's the case, is Carney upset with Ontario Premier Doug Ford?
Well, Canada was making important progress on sectoral trade issues with Washington before the Ontario government anti-tariff ads started running. I mean, those are the Prime Minister's words. But he also declined to criticize Premier Doug Ford directly.
And others will have opinions, and others welcome free advice, unsolicited advice is entirely appropriate. Every Canadian is a stakeholder in these negotiations.
In the end, Carney says that the federal government is the one in the room doing the negotiating, and he also says that in any high-stakes negotiations, there are always twists and turns.
Thank you, Murray.
You're welcome.
The CBC's Murray Brewster reporting from Kuala Lumpur. Canada's hunger crisis is getting worse. That is the finding from a new report from Food Banks Canada. The 2025 Hunger Count report shows that there are nearly 2.2 million visits to food banks in the month of March alone. That is a 5% jump from the previous year. It's also nearly double the number of visits since before the pandemic in March of 2019. Food Banks Canada wants Ottawa to extend and increase benefits to self-employed Canadians, disability benefit recipients, and those on employment insurance. The report also notes that 1 in 5 visitors to the food banks are working adults, 1/3 children. Javier Milei, Argentina's controversial libertarian president, is celebrating midterm election results.
Soy el rey de destrozar toda la casta es de mi apellido.
His La Libertad Avanza party scored more than 40% of the vote. Not enough for a congressional majority, but still a huge show of support for Milei and his policies. This election was seen as a referendum on the president, and analysts were expecting him to fare poorly. Milei is an ally of Donald Trump, but his popularity had dropped in recent months in an ongoing economic crisis and corruption allegations involving his sister. Hamas says it is expanding its search for the remains of 13 hostages still in Gaza. The militant group says it has provided the Red Cross and Israel with information on the possible locations of some of the remains. But the search for others continues. It's been just over 2 weeks since the U.S. brokered ceasefire went into effect. Still hanging in the balance, the demilitarization of Gaza and the disarmament of Hamas. The CBC's Crystal Gomansing has the latest from Jerusalem.
Israeli officials granted special access for Egyptian teams to enter Gaza. They're working near Khan Yunis searching for the remains of hostages. Israel also allowed Hamas and the Red Cross behind its yellow military line. On Sunday, Hamas members armed and dressed all in black were seen moving with Red Cross officials in Rafah. Information was shared about the possible whereabouts of a soldier taken in 2014. The Red Cross tells CBC it works as a trusted intermediary between parties when information is shared. It doesn't participate in any searches. Major barriers, however, still lie ahead for long-term peace in Gaza. Chief Hamas negotiator Khalil El-Hayat told Al Jazeera Sunday the weapons they carry are linked to the occupation of Palestinian territories. When that ends and a Palestinian state established, the weapons will be turned over to the state. The Israeli government opposes the creation of a Palestinian state. And as a part of the peace agreement, Israel and the U.S. both demand Hamas turn over its weapons. Shashash Bedrosian is an Israeli government spokesperson.
Gaza will be demilitarized. And
Hamas and other Palestinian factions met recently in Cairo, recommitting to the agreement and supporting an independent temporary Palestinian technocratic committee to oversee basic services in Gaza. Crystal Gomansing, CBC News, Jerusalem.
Jamaica is bracing for Hurricane Melissa. Heavy rain and strong winds whipped the southeast coast near the town of Portmore. The Category 4 storm is getting closer, and it is expected to get stronger before it makes landfall in Jamaica late tonight. Right now, Melissa is packing winds of up to 220 kilometers an hour. And officials say it could bring storm surges of nearly 4 meters. Mandatory evacuation orders have been issued for parts of Kingston and 6 other areas. Most people are being told to head to shelters now before it's too late. Cuba and the Bahamas are also in Melissa's path. It's been a year since Canada experienced one of its biggest measles outbreaks in decades, and medical experts warn it could happen again. They say more needs to be done now to prevent another resurgence. Lauren Pelly has the story.
I think it's inevitable that there will be more cases of measles in Canada.
1 year after Canada declared a measles outbreak, new infections have died down, but concern about the future remains high. McMaster University immunologist Dawn Bodish said childhood vaccination rates have dropped in recent years, while entire pockets of the country remain unprotected. She's among those calling for a national vaccine registry for better tracking to help target public health efforts.
It is shocking that Canada is one of the few countries in the G7 that doesn't have such a thing.
If chains of measles transmission continue past October, it's also possible Canada could lose its measles elimination status from the World Health Organization.
Quite frankly, if we were to lose our status, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing at an international level.
But Toronto infectious disease specialist Dr. Isaac Bogosh says that outcome isn't a sure thing. He said more targeted outreach to under-vaccinated communities could help boost uptake and stop the spread of one of the world's most contagious diseases. Lauren Pelly, CBC News, Toronto.
A Victoria man is telling the story of how he fell victim to one of the biggest ever scams reported in Canada. He lost his entire life savings to someone posing as a bank investigator. But he says the most shocking part is that the 2 major banks did not stop it. The CBC's Erica Johnson has more in this Go Public investigation.
Can't think of anything else. day in and day out.
89-year-old Ray Anholt was left penniless after scammers convinced him to hand over his life savings, almost $1.7 million. It started with a phone call, someone posing as a bank employee with CIBC. He said Anholt's identity had been stolen, his money was at risk, and he needed to pull it all out of the bank and hand it over to a courier who'd collect it for safekeeping.
I assumed they were telling me the truth.
As he repeatedly pulled out thousands, CIBC warned him activity on his account was unusual, but let him keep withdrawing. Ray's son, Lee Anholt, says it was worse at RBC.
They're not asking for ID. They're not asking any questions. They're shoveling his money out the door, and I can't believe that nobody raised any red flags.
Bank accountability advocate Duff Conacher says it's problematic.
It's horribly negligent pattern at both CIBC and RBC.
Conacher says Canada needs protections like Australia and the UK. They've introduced laws that could hold banks liable for failing to prevent fraud. But there was no mention of similar protections when the federal government announced new anti-fraud measures last week. Meantime, CIBC said its investigation is ongoing. RBC said it has now resolved the issue with Ray Anholt, but didn't say how. Both banks told Go Public they have robust policies in place to deal with fraud. Erica Johnson, CBC News, Vancouver.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. News anytime at cbcnews.ca. I'm Marcia Young.
Good Monday morning, everyone. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Glad to be back with you here in Information Radio on CBC, 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and on YouTube. We have a wet Monday ahead. Light rain falling already in Winnipeg, 11 degrees, and there is a special weather statement that pertains to most of southern Manitoba. I mean, Selkirk, Gimli, Stonewall, Portage La Prairie, Winkler, Altona, Morris. It's going to be really wet, 30 to 50 millimeters over some of the most affected regions. This hour on CBC, Elmwood, East Kildonan has a new city councilor as of Saturday. We'll talk to Emma Durand-Wood in the next hour live. But first, we're going to hear from one of her super cute campaigners, an 8-year-old door knocker, so stay tuned for that. Also, a technical glitch in Canada's national dental plan, as you've been hearing in the news. Wrongly approved about 70,000 people. We'll have more on that story this hour. And on the latest episode of Cross Country Checkup this weekend, Game 3 of the World Series tonight, Canadians weighed in on what the playoff run means to them. So we'll hear a little bit of that as well, in case you're cheering along for tonight. Right now, let's go to Heather Wells. She's in our news center with headlines. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, tenants at a West Broadway apartment building say they have endured a summer of chaos after new owners started extensive construction in July. Some people say contractors entered their suites without giving enough notice amid nonstop renovations. Chandon Homes Limited took ownership in late July and says that building's more than 100 years old and needs upgrades. It claims it did give tenants enough notice. We'll hear more about that. And new numbers show more than half of people let out with an ankle monitor in Manitoba end up being rearrested or breaching their conditions. We'll break down the numbers in our next local news coming up at 6:30.
All right, thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Heather's with us, of course, throughout the morning. You can check online anytime for developments at cbc.ca/Manitoba also. Abby Adeyemi is here. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you, Marcy.
Yeah, how's the weather?
I think let's start with my weekend. This was one of the finest weekend I enjoyed.
Why?
The season, because no bugs, the breeze was not, it wasn't too windy. I sat at the park and I spent just 3 hours just watching people play their games. The dogs
enjoy the
running
last burst of
around
beautiful
and that
fall.
beautiful fall. It was like, okay, this is all I need to recharge myself that I missed all summer.
I've really enjoyed the colors. I mean, when we get that first blast of winter, you lose the leaves really fast in Winnipeg and across most of Manitoba. But here in Winnipeg, just speaking of the city, and this year the leaves really have stayed, and the colors even just in, not just in parks, but like in people's city yards,
Yeah,
are
like
just on fire. It's really pretty.
you see gardens, you see people's yards, and you see the orange shade
Yeah.
and the leaves falling, and then the wind comes and it just blows it all over the place.
Yeah,
And I'm like, oh, it just brings me joy.
We look like a fall postcard right now.
Well, but Marcy, we have to deal with today into tomorrow. It's going to be wet, wet, wet in southern Manitoba. We're talking about looking at rain. For some areas would get about 60 millimeters of rain. There's a slow moving system coming our way. Hence, we have this special weather statement in effect for parts of the Interlake. So for folks in the Gimli area, you will be getting rain. For our friends around Port de Perry, you'll be getting rain. And then for friends around the Pembina Valley region, talking about from Modern Winkler to the Morris, all the way towards the U.S. border, we're expecting about 50 to 60 millimeters of rain due to this slow moving system. So plenty of rain throughout the day. Here in Winnipeg, it's already started. We're looking at 13 degrees at this time. Light rain falling at the Forks. This will continue through the day. Winnipeg, we should see between 15 and 25 millimeters of in total once the system moves through. And then from now, we're going to see the weather just slide down to around 9 degrees this afternoon. Light winds will be coming from the south, and it's going to stay a bit breezy at some point. Across the southern region, we're looking at similar situation, also cloudy with rain expected. Some areas will see 20, some areas will see 30 millimeters, and temperatures will gradually be dropping to about 9 degrees for most of the regions. While up north, it's more about clear skies and sunshine on the way. For folks in the north, we'll see temperatures between 4 and 7 degrees, and then warming up to about 11. So it's more like a cool start to the week, Marcy. Cool and wet. Down south, it's going to be wet. Up north, it's going to be dry and clear.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Let's put your windshield wipers on and get ready for that and all that puddle action. Watch for pedestrians, cyclists. Of course, they move more into the laneways, trying to avoid the puddles. Otherwise, out there, the drive's looking good, frankly. The commute's fine. It's pretty early still, but call us if you see any major problems. We'll pass it along here on the air. Our CBC commuter line is 788-3093. Well, Jason Schreier was the longtime Winnipeg City Councillor for Elmwood East Kildonan, and his sudden death in April left a vacancy there. And now we know who is filling it. Emma Durand-Wood won the Elmwood East Kildonan by-election over the weekend, but she didn't do it all on her own. She recruited the help of a lot of folks. We're going to hear from her in the next hour. But let's start the show with something cutie patootie, shall we? Because this is one of those people that helped. 8-year-old Joshua Oliver, he knocked on more than 1,000 doors during her campaign. CBC's Gavin Axelrod caught up with him on Saturday, and just to note, the sound quality on Gavin's voice is a little challenging, but it's worth it to hear young Joshua.
My name is Joshua William Oliver.
So you were working on the campaign, is that right?
Yes.
So tell me what your role was working on the campaign.
Well, pretty much anything. I helped do the door knocking.
What was that like?
It was great, but not so much when they didn't answer the door.
What do you think, why do you think people voted for Emma? Like, why do you think she won today?
Well, she's a great candidate, and that's only because of her kindness. She cares about the city. She wanted to stop fast. She wanted to stop fast drivers.
What did you learn from, like, being part of a campaign like this?
I learned that connection with people is important, and also being a door knocker is great.
Do you think you'll ever want to run for city council maybe after doing something like this?
Maybe. Just maybe.
How old are you again?
I'm 8.
8. How did you even get like involved in something like this at your age?
Well, my mother told me that she was running, and I decided to help. I asked her if I could help, and then that's how this whole charade started.
So is your mom friends with Emma, or?
Correct. We are both friends with her.
Just lastly, have you had a good time today?
Yep. This will be a memory to remember.
Well, I think we have a future candidate on our hands there if he would like to run. Well-spoken. That was CBC's Gavin Axelrod speaking with well-spoken young Joshua Oliver. 8 years old. He helped door knocking. He knocked on 1,000 doors during Emma Durand-Wood's campaign, which she won in Elmwood East Kildonan. The new city councillor will join us live to talk about her priorities after 7 o'clock.
North of North is in fashion, literally. CBC and the WAG are partnering to present Crafted on the Catwalk November 4th, a fashion show featuring cast members of the breakout comedy displaying designer clothes from Manitoba and the North. Then shop for fine handmade goods at Crafted Show and Sale November 7th to 9th. Visit cbc.ca/Manitoba/community for more, including an exclusive North of North screening and meet and greet.
6:19 the time right now. And are you watching the World Series? And you're going to be turning on the television tonight. The Toronto Blue Jays are in the middle of an unlikely World Series run in which they're tied 1-1 against the LA Dodgers. But beyond the action on the field are a lot of personal standout moments. Fans from coast to coast to coast are watching and cheering for, well, Canada's baseball team, the only one we've got left. This weekend, CBC's Cross Country Checkoff got on the bandwagon and asked callers, what do the Blue Jays World Series run? What does the World Series run mean to you? Lots of stories and memories. Here's a little bit of what people were sharing across the country with host Ian Hannamansing.
My dad passed away from cancer in 2011, and he was a really big Jays fan. Most of my childhood has a baseball game playing in the background. So the Blue Jays team has always been representative of my dad for me. And actually, the last time that I said goodbye to my dad before he passed away, my family had a big family reunion at the Rogers Centre. We all came from all over Canada, splurged on a skybox, watched the game with my dad. So that was the last time that I saw him there before he passed away. So once they made it to the World Series, my family was texting. We were saying how my dad must be smiling and he's so excited. Like we've all just kind of reconnected. And it also makes me just feel so connected to my dad. I can put on his old Jays hat and his T-shirts, and just even the sound of the ball game in the background is very calming for me.
I have a couple of friends that I used to play softball with, and I remember when I used to watch the Jays in the 90s and they won, and we were all baseball and softball fans back in those days when we played the sport as well. And then this time around when Toronto won against Seattle, like that 7th inning home run by George Springer, I remember thinking, holy smokes, they won. This is amazing. And I texted all of my old friends from softball, and all of them were in different places, but they all were just, we couldn't believe it. We were all just, oh my gosh, this is happening. It's happening again. We were so excited. One of my friends, she was at the Calgary Flames Winnipeg Jets game in Calgary, and she said they stopped the game and put the home run on the Jumbotron, and the entire crowd was just erupted in cheers, right? It didn't matter if you were a Winnipeg Jets fan or a Calgary Flames fan, you were a Toronto Blue Jays fan and you were cheering for them that night. It was great.
When they won Game 7, I got on the Porter website, booked some flights, and I'm headed to Toronto. It's my grandmother's 97th birthday tomorrow, and she's a big Blue Jays fan. And my earliest Blue Jays memory was watching a game with her, and I try and make a point of visiting her when I'm in Toronto, which is often enough. And so I'm hoping to make Game 6. I'll be headed down there, and we'll watch the game together.
Lots of people with their own personal memories around the Blue Jays. That game, by the way, that Jets-Calgary game, I remember we had that in the news the next day. The Jets players saying that they were kind of one eye on the game and one eye on their game that night. We'll see what happens tonight. The Jays and the LA Dodgers, they now have a home field advantage. The series tied 1-1, and the Jays are practicing already in LA.
We carry a world of information in our pockets because we want to know. It's news you can trust, delivered when you want and where you want on Canada's News app. Now with CBC Radio 1, local and live. Download the CBC News app for free.
Well, what a whoops this is. Health Canada says about 70,000 people were accidentally approved for the new National Dental Plan due to a mistake in how income was calculated. Of those who were inaccurately assessed, roughly 28,000 people had already been to the dentist. Officials say the error has been fixed now, so no one's being asked to return the money. For a closer look, though, at what happened, Stephen Staples is with us now. He is with the Canadian Health Coalition, which is an advocacy group. Good morning.
Good morning.
So what happened? What went wrong?
Well, it's whoopsie, as you say. We're not really sure exactly what went wrong, but there's some things that we do know that, first of all, this is a federal program. The Canadian Dental Program is a federal program, so it's not hooked into any provincial government systems. It is administered through a contract with Sun Life, in fact. So the federal government, pretty hefty contract with Sun Life in order to figure out qualifications, handle all the benefits, payouts, and things like that. But the main thing is that I suspect here, and they said, well, they made a mistake calculating income. So the thing is, this program is not like other provincial programs. You know, when you go to have a baby in the hospital, nobody asks you how much money you make. But they do when you apply for the dental care plan. So if you have private insurance, you don't qualify. If your household income, not your personal income, your household income is over $90,000, so that's you and your spouse. If it's over $90,000, you don't get any coverage. If it's less than $70,000, you get 100%. If you're between $70,000 and $90,000, you get somewhere between 60 and 40% coverage. You see, it's very complicated. You can imagine the formula that they got to run through and all these databases that they got to have access to. So it's a very complicated system, and I think something went wrong here, obviously. The good news is people don't have to pay it back, but the bad news is 28,000 people who need the care can't get it anymore. So I think that's nothing to celebrate.
The program covers around 5 million Canadians, but fewer than half have used it. What does all this say to you about why, do you have a sense of why uptake has been seemingly low?
Well, it's a very new program, first of all. I mean, the budget, I was in Ottawa when the budget was approved in 2023, high fives all around the room. First major expansion of Medicare in a long time. So I think that was good news. It's just only been finally rolled out 100% this summer, so that everybody is now open to apply. And I think they should go on the Canadian government website and apply. Now, that 5 million figure that you mentioned, that's the number of people that have applied and were approved. Actually, the number of people that would qualify for the program is much higher. Probably a little over 8 million would probably be eligible for it. But the fact is, these people applied and haven't made use of it yet. Now, we don't know exactly why. Perhaps they've applied and have put the approval in their back pocket so that, when they find time, they can go and get the care they need. But we don't know exactly why. In fact, I was in Ottawa just last week talking to researchers that have done some interviews with people that have used the program. And one of the factors that could potentially be at play here is the fact that people think it's going to be 100% coverage, just like going to a hospital. And they may be surprised to find out that they may be assessed with between 40 and 60% of the bill based on their family income. There could be extra charges that are charged by the dentist, perhaps. And this might be a barrier for them getting the care they need, which is not good, because good dental care is a preventative kind of treatment. It's your mouth is connected to your whole body. It's not separate. And these problems can get more complicated and, frankly, more expensive to treat down the road. So we want to get people involved in this program, but there's still some tweaks to be made for sure.
What are the other tweaks, as you put it? You just mentioned one of the barriers that could be changed. Maybe clearly articulating through an education plan, maybe that A, the program's there, and B, that it's not 100%, so people should be aware of that. But what else do you think is proving to be a barrier for this that could be improved?
Yeah, and I've seen some of the ads for the Canadian Dental Care Plan. I think that the government is doing what they can to get people to sign up, and I would encourage people to do that. But one of the things is I think that we need to move this much more toward what our provincial healthcare system is, which is universal. The Prime Minister said, during the campaign, healthcare is a right. Well, rights aren't conditional based on your income. I think it should be available to everybody, should have access to this plan. So first steps would be to begin to roll back some of these complicated tests of your income. If we removed some of these barriers, between 70 and 90,000, 60, 40% of coverage, very complicated. Let's make it simple. Let's make it 100% coverage. And I don't know about that $90,000 qualification. $90,000 is not a lot for a household income. That's at least two people. So I think we could either move that up or get rid of it eventually down the road. It'll cost a little bit more, but let's make it much more like our provincial healthcare system, which is universal and covers everybody.
Thank you for being with us this morning. Appreciate your time.
Thanks so much.
With us explaining what went wrong with some of the distribution of the National Dental Plan, Stephen Staples, their National Director of Policy and Advocacy with the Canadian Health Coalition. In case you missed the top of our conversation, Health Canada says about 70,000 people were accidentally approved for the new National Dental Plan because of a mistake in how income was calculated.
There are many people who bring success, innovation, accomplishment, and charity to our community. We'd like you to help us meet some of the best. CBC Future 40 will honor 10 Manitobans under 40 making a difference. Help us discover the inspiring people in our province by nominating a shining star in your community today. For details, visit cbc.ca/future40mb.
Well, still ahead, we have business news with Hallie Cottenham, who'll be joining us live right around 6:35. We will hear the latest salvo in the U.S. trade war with Canada. Lots going on there since Friday, as you likely know. U.S. President Trump, as you've been hearing on the news, still upset about that anti-tariff TV ad featuring Ronald Reagan. What is all this going to mean, and what's the latest? Hallie will have that. Also, she has a story about Lululemon. It's trademarked the phrase Lululemon dupes. So we're going to find out what all of that is about business-wise. And then Game 3 of the World Series goes tonight. Hallie always has a bit of a business take on that. We also have a bit of a language take on baseball coming up. Blair Sanderson is going to explore why baseball is such a rich playing field for English expressions and idioms, like step up to the plate or it's a whole new ball game. You can probably name a whole bunch of these phrases without even thinking much. So we're going to look more a little bit of how many Blair can come up with, and when he hit the streets, what people had to say about how they use them in their own lives. If you are on the streets this morning, they are wet. You got your wipers on, and you are getting ready for a drive where you're going to be dodging puddles. Be careful with the pedestrians, of course, and cyclists out there. And if you're cycling, you're going to be really wet. We are expecting so much rain. We have this special weather statement that's been issued. This includes Selkirk, Gimli, Stonewall, Woodlands, Portage, Headingley, Brunkhill, Carman, Morden, Winkler, Altona, and Morris that could see 50 to 60 millimeters by tomorrow. More on that coming up after your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 6:30, we have light rain. At the moment, it is 11 degrees. We'll see 15 to 25 millimeters with periods of rain through the day. Windy, the temperature falls to 9. And then tonight, more rain, 10 to 20 millimeters on top of what we already get this afternoon. So get set for a rubber boots kind of a day. Construction without permits and unlawful entry into their homes. That's what several people living in a West Broadway apartment building allege happened to them this summer after it came under new ownership. And the landlord argues it gave enough notice. CBC's Rosanna Hempel has more.
They chose the most vile way to get rid of us.
Mira Coop recently moved out of her beloved apartment after months of construction at her building when a new owner took over. She and other tenants allege their privacy, rights, and safety were violated in the process. They say the complex underwent major renovations without permits and that they didn't always get 24 hours notice before contractors came into their homes.
It was so unsettling and upsetting.
The contractor, Boss Construction, argues they did not need permits for the type of work they were doing, but says they applied for them when a city inspector came by last month and told them to stop work. Property management company Chandon Homes and the owner both say they gave enough notice to people living there, something tenants like Liam Simpson dispute.
We've had multiple requests of entry that either people don't show up or they don't give us the right notice and show up.
They hope speaking out helps hold the companies accountable. Rosanna Hempel, CBC News, Winnipeg.
New numbers show more than half of people let out with an ankle monitor in Manitoba end up being rearrested or breaching their conditions. But experts and people involved in the system are divided on whether that means the program's been a success or a failure. Justice Minister Matt Wiebe thinks the devices are working in part because of how they use GPS to help police find people who have broken the rules.
That's a tool that we just didn't have before, and that just gives law enforcement an incredible amount of information. Otherwise they'd be really in the dark.
Both University of Winnipeg criminal justice professor Michael Weinrath says the latest numbers, which he calls stark, show the ankle monitoring program isn't working. The government reintroduced ankle monitoring in August of last year. Federal Conservatives were talking bail reform at a town hall yesterday at the Gateway Recreation Centre. Ramandeep Grewal was among dozens who came to the event. He supports tougher sentences and bail measures, but wants to see the Conservatives and the governing Liberals work better together towards a solution.
I think it's a wastage of energy if we basically keep on singing the song from two different sources. It will be ideal. I think the situation warrants that we sit together in the parliament or behind the parliament scenes and then come up with some common solution.
Grewal says politicians of all stripes have to remember part of their goal is to make life better for Canadians. The group representing Manitoba Crown attorneys has walked away from negotiations with the province. The union filed a grievance in 2023 calling on Manitoba to address heavy caseloads by increasing wages and recruiting more prosecutors. That was set to go to arbitration, but the union agreed to mediation instead, which broke down last week. In a statement, Justice Minister Matt Wiebe says the province will stay at the table, and he was, quote, surprised and disappointed the union walked away. Ben Wickstrom is at the Manitoba Association of Crown Attorneys.
I appreciate the minister was surprised. I think, unfortunately, it should be no surprise to anyone that if real resources aren't put on the table, this isn't going to resolve.
Wickstrom says Crowns are leaving for better wages and workloads in other provinces, and his group is now looking at new arbitration dates. Prime Minister Mark Carney says he was offered no opportunity to speak with U.S. President Donald Trump at this weekend's ASEAN Trade Summit in Kuala Lumpur. Trump has left that summit, and Carney says it appears the snub is related to the anti-tariff ad campaign Ontario's been running in the U.S. But Carney insists he didn't come to the summit to talk trade with the U.S.
The Canada-ASEAN relationship is full of potential. This is a region of nearly 700 million consumers with a market worth over $5 trillion. It's already Canada's second largest trading partner with over $260 billion in two-way merchandise trade alone. Yet, even at those levels, it still only represents about 10% of our exports.
Carney says he's looking to finalize a new Canada-ASEAN free trade agreement by next year, and he says that would add more than $1 billion to Canada's economy. Well, the Jets were first to find the net.
Dylan DeMello shoots, scores! Bullseye from DeMello, and the Jets.
Dylan DeMello in the second period on TSN, scoring first against the Utah Mammoth. But the Mammoth, with two former Jets, Nate Schmidt and Brandon Tanev, are on a roll. They beat the Jets 3-2. It was Utah's 7th straight win. Winnipeg coach Scott Arniel says his team's play in the first period was perfect, but he didn't like what he saw in the second.
Self-inflicted, just decided that maybe that was too much of hard work. Didn't think we could do it for the second period, and it's a broken record. Keep seeing this second period. We keep talking about these second periods. All it does, especially in our building, gives the opposition momentum.
Connor Hellebuck making 29 saves on the night. The Jets take it on the road now, playing in Minnesota tomorrow night. You can find more news updated throughout your day at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right, thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Let's get into this regional forecast. Wet day, Abby.
Yeah, wet and cloudy, Marcy. We're looking at the south dealing with steady rain through the day into tomorrow, while up north we're going to see mostly cloudy conditions and a mix of sun and clouds somewhere in between. We do have this special statement in effect for parts of the Interlake into Port La Prairie, and I'm tracking it all the way into the Pembina Valley region towards the U.S. border this morning. Now, these areas could see heavy rainfall due to this slow-moving system. It's going to be bringing heavy rain. We're going to see about 60 millimeters possible in some spots. So expect plenty of rain through the day. Expect slick roads. Water builds up in low areas and reduces visibility if you're driving. But in Winnipeg right now, 13 degrees. The rain is already falling. We're going to be seeing temperatures drop to about 9 degrees later today. Breezy from the south. Rain continues through the day. And of course, Winnipeg later after the system moves through, we should see about 10 to 20 millimeters before it eases on Tuesday. Now, for the Pembina Valley region, more than Winkler, Autonomous, 12 degrees there. Steady rain also, gusty south winds, temperatures dropping to 9 also. For Brandon and the rest of the Westman region towards Nipawin, we're looking at 10, 11 degrees at this time. Cloudy with periods of rain developing. We'll see your temperature get to near 11 degrees, and then it's turned dry with partly cloudy conditions overnight. Through the Parkland region, we're seeing it's cloudy there, 11 degrees at this time. Light winds, it's going to stay cloudy tonight. Expect a mix of sun and clouds for tomorrow. For the Interlake region, rain is falling already in Gimli, 12 degrees at this time. Temperatures dropping to 9 later. Expect heavy rain through the night and then some clearing by Tuesday. Up north, the powerful influence surrounding communities, well, we're talking about calm conditions at this time. It's clear out there. Some sun on its way. You'd see your temperatures around 5 degrees now. That should warm up to about 11 later. Further north, Churchill, we're looking at 8 degrees, similar conditions in Thompson. It's going to turn sunny and a mix of sun and clouds through the day. For Thompson, we're going to see highs around 11. And for Churchill, we're going to see temperatures warm close to 14 degrees. So more like a soggy, breezy day for southern Manitoba. And it's going to be pleasant and dry up north. Winnipeg right now, it's wet and 13 degrees.
All right, thank you, Corey.
I'll
thank
take
you,
it.
Abby.
I'll play Corey for Halloween this week.
looking at Corey talking to Abby. That's how that happens. Corey is here with the commute.
Yes, it's been a very quiet commute overall. Roads might be a little bit wet for you. It started to rain just as I was biking here this morning, and it's only more rain on the way. But if you do see something going on, give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number, 204-788-3093.
Well, you know what's going on. A week from today, we're going to be in Flin Flon, Manitoba.
Are. And we've confirmed a location. We're going to be live at the Orange Toad, which has been a bit of a staple cafe in the community for 21 years.
Oh, awesome. So we're going to that Northern Manitoba city. Why? Well, the team of us will go for Communities in Focus. We'll go from all of our platforms. We'll spend some real time meeting people, learning what people want us to know about Flin Flon, how we can, as your public broadcaster, spread the message of Flin Flon to the rest of the province. You know, what should we understand? Communities in Focus is as much about going to an area, not just when things are acute, not just when there's news happening. Often it's bad news happening, but to try to get a more fulsome picture of what the community means. And in this case, of course, a lot of us feel like we got a taste of Flin Flon this summer, and it was because of, bad news reasons with the wildfires. That city of 5,000 people was evacuated for just weeks on end, one of the longest evacuations out there of the communities in Manitoba. And they're right on the border with Lake Denair Beach, so people know what happened there. That's in Saskatchewan, but people see it as their community, Flin Flon, Denair Beach. Some people live and work back and forth, and they lost a lot there in the fires. So that's not necessarily the reason we're going, but of course we'll still have some follows on that too.
Yeah, and you can always reach out to us. We've actually had a few listeners reach out to us already. I think one of them is a geologist, and he's already offered to give us a bit of a tour of the amazing rocks.
Yeah, I saw that. Thank you for writing to us.
Yes, so and keep them coming. We want to tell as many stories as we can about Flin Flon, so you can email us, let's say at 89...
Yeah, radio893 at cbc.ca. Yeah. Use that one?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Radio 893.
So we have a week. Send us some photos. Send them some ideas. And if you want to see us when we're in Flin Flon, we'll try to get out and tell your story. I know we have a lot of early morning listeners from up north. All right, let's get into business news. Hallie Cottenham has been waiting to talk to us here, and she joins us live via Zoom. Hi, Hallie.
Hi. Good morning, Marcy.
So let's start with the latest salvo in the U.S. trade war with Canada.
Yeah, U.S. President Trump still upset about that anti-tariff TV ad featuring Ronald Reagan. He said of Prime Minister Carney on Air Force One earlier this morning, "I don't want to meet with him. I'm not going to be meeting with him for a while." And shortly afterwards, Carney held a news conference at the culmination of the ASEAN summit in Kuala Lumpur. Sarah Ritchie of the Canadian Press asked this question.
Have you had any contact with President Trump since Thursday?
I have not.
Given that President Trump said today on Air Force One, I don't know if you heard this, but in the last hour, he said he doesn't plan to meet with you for a long time. Is it worth continuing to pursue a discussion, a meeting, a phone call with him at this point?
I didn't see the comment. Look, we stand ready to sit down with the United States myself with the president, my colleagues with their colleagues, when the U.S. is ready to sit down.
Carney went on to say in this news conference that a deal on sectoral tariffs had been close before the ad ran, but he seemed to stop short of criticizing Premier Ford's ad. Meanwhile, Scott Bessent, the U.S. Treasury Secretary, had this to say about the TV ad on yesterday's Meet the Press on CNBC.
This is a kind of propaganda against U.S. citizens. It's psyops. I just think it was terrible judgment by this premier, who has a bit of a reputation for being a hothead.
Just to bring your listeners up with the timeline, Marcy, on Friday, Ontario Premier Doug Ford agreed to pull the ads down as of today, Monday, so that trade talks could resume. But that meant it aired during the World Series games 1 and 2. And it was after game 1 that Trump said that he was going to hike tariffs on Canadian goods by an extra 10%. We have no details, no specifics of what this 10% means. And on another interesting point, BC says it's going to run its own anti-tariff ads in the U.S. next month in a bid to protect its forestry industry.
Let's go to another story. This one's about Lululemon. They trademark now the phrase Lululemon dupes. So this is obviously about people ripping off their designs. They're trying to get ahead of that?
Well, yeah. I mean, it successfully trademarked the phrase with the U.S. Patents and Trademark Office. Now, dupes is short for duplicates, but it turns out it's a slang term. It's all over social media as influencers spread the word about a product that is as good or almost as good as the original, but cheaper. Now, marketing experts say the word dupes doesn't have the same negative connotation of words like fakes or knockoffs. In fact, Marcy, scoring dupes is kind of cool, and bragging about it is a thing on TikTok. #dupes.
For me, I just always wanted Lululemon, but this is a fraction of the price. It's literally £25, I think.
Let's save ourselves some money and stop buying name brand ones when these are the exact same thing.
We've spoken in the past how Lululemon is suing Costco for infringing on its intellectual property by selling dupes of its hoodies and sweatshirts and jackets and pants. But now that Lululemon owns the phrase, anyone who tries to use it to draw attention to their product, at least in the U.S., could be in legal trouble.
And finally, you've spun the World Series into business news in the last while here. So Game 3 goes tonight. Apart from the players, a lot of eyes are going to be on the umpires. You have a story this morning about what this time of year means to their bottom line.
Yeah, it turns out the best 7 umps in the league get invited to work the final series, and they rotate around the diamond each game. The Sporting News dug into what kind of money these guys make. Turns out the average salary for an MLB ump is around $300,000 US, but in the postseason, things get very interesting. The divisional playoff series earns each of them $17,500 plus expenses. And then the World Series bump for these 7 guys is worth $20,000 plus expenses. And it's a flat rate, Marcy, regardless of how many games each series takes. And just as an aside, this is the last World Series before the robot umps arrive. This is the automated ball strike system, goes into effect next year. Human umps will still call balls and strikes, but the teams will be able to challenge two calls per game or get additional appeals in extra innings. And the reviews will be shown up as digital graphics on the outfield video screen, or what I call the Jumbotron.
It's going to be a big change for the game. Mm-hmm. All right. Thanks a lot, Hallie.
Thanks, Marcy.
That's Hallie Cottenham with Business News. Well, because the last story was about Jays, why don't we go right into our next story? It's also about Blue Jays. It's about baseball. It's about language, though. CBC's Blair Standerson steps up to the plate to examine why so many popular idioms come from baseball.
Okay, right off the bat, let's just say that baseball is a major league contributor to the richness of the English language. Ann Curzan is a professor of English linguistics at the University of Michigan. She says there are countless idioms and expressions that come from the sport.
There are so many. Knock it out of the park. You can strike out, be a heavy hitter, off base. Let's touch base, pinch hit, strike out. It's a whole new ball game. These terms are everywhere.
And there are even expressions from baseball that seem completely out of left field.
Rain check was first used in baseball. No way to know that from just looking at rain check, but the evidence we have, it was first used to help people see a game. If a game got rained out, they got a rain check.
By comparison, other sports just don't pack the same linguistic punch, except for maybe boxing. It does go blow for blow with baseball. But idioms from hockey?
I will be able to do this. I was like, icing. Do we have any meaning of icing? Penalty box. Put in the penalty box.
Elbows up is also in the zeitgeist right now, but hockey really isn't even in the same ballpark as baseball. Stuart Webb is an applied linguist at Western University in Ontario.
My guess is the reason there are so many baseball idioms is that there's 162 games in a season, and it's a sport that's been around a long time. So if we compare it to American football or Canadian football, where we in the past only had 16 games in a season, there's fewer opportunities to encounter these idioms.
These idioms are of particular interest to Webb because he studies what it takes to understand English as a second language.
I look at questions such as how many words do you need to know to understand a TV program or read a novel?
Okay, how many words do you need to know to watch a show like Friends?
3,000. The most frequent 3,000 words.
But he admits idioms throw a wrinkle into that.
Mind if I take a rain check? I'm waiting for a call from Emily.
Webb says someone learning English who knows the words rain and check might still be confused. And that's a problem.
If you don't understand the idioms that are used, and they are used all the time, you're constantly on the outside.
Anne-Marie Fowler is an ESL instructor who teaches a whole section on expressions that come from sports. She says even though they do have the potential to confuse, idioms are a powerful form of expression. She uses knock it out of the park as an example.
Let's just say I've got a coworker who just did a presentation. She was feeling a bit nervous about it. And I want to tell her that she did a great job. So I can absolutely say, wow, that was fantastic. You did a great job on the presentation. But if I said, wow, that was a great presentation, you knocked it out of the park, suddenly it's not just a group of words that sound nice, it's a mental image of someone hitting a ball over the fence. I mean, that momentary picture in our mind completely transforms how we feel in that moment. So it creates a more powerful image. It allows us to express ourselves with that increased precision.
For CBC Radio, I'm Blair Sanderson.
So were you counting? In that piece, there were a total of 12 idioms that come from baseball. And these are ones that didn't make it into that piece. Playing hardball, throwing a curveball, swing for the fences, bush league, going to bat, and getting to first base. It is right now 9 minutes to 7 o'clock on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. I'm Marcy Marcusa. You're with CBC's Morning Show. It's 11 degrees and raining in Winnipeg, and that's going to continue through the day and into tomorrow with some heavy rain expected in Winnipeg, 15 to 25 millimeters. Well, next on the show, Prime Minister Mark Carney is on his first trip to Asia since taking office with the aim of strengthening ties in the region. It comes as Carney said repeatedly Canada must diversify trade away from the U.S. Today, as you might have heard, Carney is in Kuala Lumpur. He's attending the Association of Southeast Asian Nations Summit, ASEAN. He also spoke just over an hour ago about his plans to expand Canada's non-U.S. exports. He also took questions about Trump's decision to, quote, terminate trade talks with Canada over Ontario's ad featuring Ronald Reagan's voice, which Hallie was just talking about. A reporter asked if he was upset with Ontario Premier Doug Ford about his decision to run the ad. Here's more of what he said.
In any complicated, high-stakes negotiation, you can get unexpected twists and turns, and you have to keep your cool during those situations. It doesn't pay to be upset. Emotions don't carry you very far. And we had made progress, to repeat. And we stand by the progress that had been made, the Government of Canada does, and we are ready, when appropriate, to pick that up. So And I'll just re-emphasize that it is the responsibility of the Government of Canada to have these negotiations. And others will have opinions, and others welcome free advice, unsolicited advice is entirely appropriate. Every Canadian is a stakeholder in these negotiations. Every Canadian is a stakeholder in the fact that we're making progress in ASEAN, that we have the agreement with Indonesia, that we have just decided to accelerate trade talks with Philippines, with ASEAN as a whole. Every Canadian has a stakeholder, is a stakeholder in the evolution of our relationship with China and the discussions that we will be having at APEC with giants there. So that's the focus. Sans émotion. Et on va continuer comme ça.
Without emotion, and we'll continue along those
So
lines.
that is Prime Minister Mark Carney speaking in Kuala Lumpur earlier this morning. He mentioned APEC, the Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation Forum, on Friday. He'll be in South Korea for that. U.S. President Donald Trump will be at both summits as well. Jeff Rubin's here to talk about everything. Economist and author of A Map to the New Normal, How Inflation, War, and Sanctions Will Change Your World Forever. Hi, Jeff.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. Let's start with the new stuff here. So Carney saying he's going to meet with China's President Xi Jinping. What concessions might Carney make to boost trade?
Well, the concession that he has to make is to drop the ridiculous 100% tariff that we imposed on Chinese electric vehicles, which in turn led them to imposing a 100% tariff on canola oil and pork and seafood, which, has cost Canadian farmers billions of dollars of income. The question that we need to ask ourselves is, what exactly are we protecting? We dovetailed a move that Biden did to ingratiate ourselves to Washington, the country that is now imposing tariffs against us. That would be a first step, but of course, we have to go way beyond that. I mean, if we're going to replace the U.S. market, it's not like trade deals with Indonesia that we need.
Can you explain that then? So Carney signed the trade deal with Indonesia recently. Just give us some context. Obviously, Indonesia trade deal might be great, but it's not going to cut it. So explain that. And then, I think we've actually lost our guest, unfortunately. Really unfortunate. I don't think we actually have that much time to get him back. We've only got a few minutes before headlines, but Corey's going to try. What I'm going to ask him to explain is, the trade deals in terms of the amount of support, the dollar amount that we do with each country. So Indonesia, but the other countries are China and India. Those are the key traders in Asia that Canada is seeking to diversify with. Hi, Jeff. Sorry we lost you, especially because we're short on time. If you look at Indonesia and how much we trade with them, and then you look at China and India being key trade partners as we seek to diversify, will that do it? Good deals with those three?
We did $5 billion of trade with Indonesia last year. We do that with the U.S. in 3 days, so that's not going to cut it. India, China, that can cut it. But here's the challenge. The challenge is that only 15% of Canadians favor greater trade with China, and even less, 5% with India. So even if Carney wants to go in that direction, is there political support for that kind of move? Well, there's going to have to be political support. I suspect that over time, as the economic pain from American tariffs increases, we'll move in that direction. The sooner we do, the better off for the Canadian economy.
Meantime, Carney and Trump will cross paths in Asia. What's the follow-up between them in the trade negotiations, in your view? A lot of people are talking about this
I think far too much attention is paid about the personal relationship between Carney and Trump. Here's the question that Canadians need to ask themselves. What happens next year when the U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement comes up for renewal? I think, contrary to what Prime Minister Carney is telling us, that's a dead man walking. The U.S. isn't going to renew it. And if they don't renew it, right now, 85% of our exports go to the U.S. tariff-free. Next year, without that deal, 0% of our exports will go to the U.S. tariff-free. So if we need to find new trade partners today, think of how much more urgent that task will be tomorrow.
So does that mean, just last briefly, when you're saying paying too much attention to the relationship, wouldn't that be a reason to lean into the relationship and try to strengthen it in some way? Or
No,
you think that ship
it's not
sailed?
about the relationship. It really isn't about the relationship. This is what it's about. The American market is way more important to the Canadian economy than the U.S. market, than the Canadian market is to the American economy. Donald Trump understands that. He's holding all the cards. So it really isn't about Prime Minister Carney's negotiating skills. It's about the fact that we're not holding the cards.
We're in tough. All right. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate your analysis.
My pleasure. Take care.
Jeff Rubin, economist and author of A Map to the New Normal. Heather Wells here now with a news update and headlines.
Well, new numbers show more than half of people let out with an ankle monitor in Manitoba end up being rearrested or breaching their conditions. But experts and people in the system are divided on whether the program has been a success or a failure. The Manitoba Association of Crown Attorneys says the province is failing to meet its urgent needs. It filed a grievance over workloads 2.5 years ago. That was set to go to arbitration with the province last week, but the association says it agreed to mediation instead, and that process broke down. I'll be back with more Manitoba news at 7:30.
All right. Thanks, Heather.
Thanks.
We do have a special weather statement that's been issued because of the rain. 30 to 60 millimeters of rain with the localized accumulations up to that high, mostly for the areas of the Western Red River Valley and the Southern Interlake. Now, for also here in Winnipeg and a lot of the south included, we'll be seeing more like 10 to 20 millimeters today and then more overnight. So it's going to be wet. And our temperature is going to fall. We're at 11 right now. We'll fall to about 9 this afternoon. Brandon's cloudy and 10 right now. Thompson's clear and 8 degrees. Traffic, pretty good so far. 788-3093. If you see any major problems, we'll pass them along. Coming up after 7 o'clock, the new city councillor for Elmwood East Kildonan will be live in studio. She won on Saturday. Emma Durand-Wood will hear about her hopes for the area. As well, Future 40 is back. Do you know someone who should be nominated? We'll meet someone who previously was a Future 40 finalist and hear about their contributions to community.
Today on The Current.
Diamonds are forever. I'm Catherine Cullen. The glitter is fading in the diamond market as prices fall dramatically. But many customers are seeing cheaper lab-grown diamonds as a sparkling alternative and no longer as a cut-price knockoff. That's coming up on The Current.
The Current. This morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland. And on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. The Canada Revenue Agency has been stuck in federal court for more than 2 years now. It's trying to recover a nearly $5 million refund it says was wrongly paid to Distribution Carflex, a body shop in Quebec. Documents obtained by the CBC's Fifth Estate reveal the transaction was quickly approved by the CRA's automated processes without human oversight. Daniel Leblanc reports.
This is where I have questions about the CRA system.
Tax expert Raphaël Clément doesn't understand why the Canada Revenue Agency reimbursed $4.99 million to a body repair shop in Quebec 2 years ago, even though there's no public record of the company paying the taxes in the first place.
Why would CRA just refund money that you never paid?
The answer lies in confidential records obtained by the CBC's The Fifth Estate. The documents show the CRA automatically approved the $4.99 million refund to Distribution Carflex because it fell just short of a $5 million threshold for a manual review. A source with inside knowledge of the CRA's workings said there would have ideally been eyeballs on that transaction before it was processed electronically. Alarm bells only rang out after the payment was issued. Ottawa has been in court for 2 years in an effort to get the money back. Distribution Carflex did not respond to a request for comment. In records tabled in court, the company says it was entitled to the refund and fought back against attempts to freeze its bank account. The Canada Revenue Agency refused to comment on a specific case. Tax expert Clément says this case raises questions about the CRA's ability to protect public funds.
Should there have been some system or safeguard in place at the CRA level before sending the $5 million?
Confidential sources who are not authorized to speak publicly about the CRA have told CBC there needs to be an outside investigation into the agency's anti-fraud systems. Daniel Leblanc, CBC News, Ottawa.
The ASEAN summit is still happening in Kuala Lumpur, but U.S. President Donald Trump has already left. And true to his word, he did not speak to Prime Minister Mark Carney.
And how did your relationship with Donald Trump go south so fast?
That's a question for him.
Trump told reporters on Air Force One he does not want to speak to Carney at the upcoming APEC summit either. Some of Trump's senior advisors have suggested U.S. frustration with Canada is about more than the anti-tariff ads Ontario ran during the World Series. But Carney says that doesn't seem to be the case.
Those in the room, those exchanging term sheets, those having the discussions, had been making progress. Those ads came, the president had the reactions which you have seen, made the decisions that he has made, and we're in the situation we're in.
Carney says his government does have a plan B, if talks never resume. What that is, he didn't say. It is voting day in Nunavut. People in 22 ridings are about to head to the polls to elect their next member of the Legislative Assembly. Nunavut has a consensus-style government. That means there are no parties and all candidates run as independents. Whomever gets the most votes becomes the MLA. And then after the election, the MLAs will select their premier. The current premier, PJ Akigok, is not seeking re-election. It's been a year since Canada experienced one of the biggest measles outbreaks in decades, and medical experts warn it could happen again. They say more needs to be done now to prevent another resurgence. Health reporter Lauren Pelly has the story.
I think it's inevitable that there will be more cases of measles in Canada.
1 year after Canada declared a measles outbreak, new infections have died down, but concern about the future remains high. McMaster University immunologist Don Bodish said childhood vaccination rates have dropped in recent years, while entire pockets of the country remain unprotected. She's among those calling for a national vaccine registry for better tracking to help target public health efforts.
It is shocking that Canada is one of the few countries in the G7 that doesn't have such a thing.
If chains of measles transmission continue past October, it's also possible Canada could lose its measles elimination status from the World Health Organization.
Quite frankly, if we were to lose our status, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing at an international level.
But Toronto infectious disease specialist Dr. Isaac Bogosh says that outcome isn't a sure thing. He said more targeted outreach to under-vaccinated communities could help boost uptake and stop the spread of one of the world's most contagious diseases. Lauren Pelly, CBC News, Toronto.
Canada's hunger crisis is getting worse. That is the finding from a new report from Food Banks Canada. The 2025 Hunger Count report shows that there were nearly 2.2 million visits to food banks in the month of March alone. That is a 5% jump from the previous year. It is also nearly double the number of visits since before the pandemic in March of 2019. Food Banks Canada wants Ottawa to extend and increase benefits to self-employed Canadians, disability benefit recipients, and those on employment insurance. The northern village of Denair Beach, Saskatchewan, is under construction. It was devastated by wildfire earlier this year. 230 homes were destroyed. Helena Mahalik reports.
Like I'm living in a whole new community, a whole new house. Like everything about my life is different.
Rhonda Werbicki stands in the empty lot that once held her home in Denair Beach. Her house is one of over 200 in the community ravaged by the flames of this year's unprecedented wildfire season. She's staying hopeful about the village's future, but is separated from her husband, Joey Werbicki, for weeks at a time as he leads the cleanup crew.
We've got a fresh slate, so I think everybody worked together pretty good to prevent a lot of those hiccups that could have happened and that hold people up on cleanups.
On a reserve on the south side of Denair Beach, one of 8 Peter Ballantine Cree Nation communities, construction is well underway. But Councillor Clayton Seawop says these fires need to be handled differently to prevent future devastation.
When we were younger, like we managed our fires differently than they do now. I've noticed it now with the let it burn policy that the fires are getting out of hand.
On the other side of the border, Flin Flon, Manitoba had extra firefighting crews brought in during the height of the fires. But residents of Denair Beach say their local volunteer firefighters were left to tackle the flames alone. The community wants assurance this won't happen again. and is asking the Saskatchewan government for more firefighter crews and water bombers for next summer. Helena Mahalik, CBC News, Denair Beach, Saskatchewan.
Hurricane Melissa is now a Category 5 storm. Waves slam against the shores of Kingston's waterfront. Hurricane Melissa is powerful and slow. Evan Thompson is the principal director with Jamaica's Meteorological Service.
All preparations should have been completed, and we really should just be in a safe, a secure place waiting for the system to move over us and pass over us. But right now, the forecast is that we will be directly impacted by the eye, a landfalling between Monday night and Tuesday morning, and it will move across us right through the day on Tuesday.
Hurricane Melissa is expected to head towards Cuba and the Bahamas later this week. A new unique experience is opening today at Rome's Colosseum. For the first time in nearly 2,000 years, visitors will be able to walk the same underground corridor once used by emperors. Megan Williams has more from Rome.
The underground passage of Commodus takes its name from one of Rome's most despised emperors, a ruler obsessed with gladiatorial combat. Historians say his policies hastened the end of Rome's first imperial age. In the end, Commodus himself was killed in a conspiracy led by his trainer and former gladiator, Narcissus. Today, he's been made famous by Ridley Scott's film Gladiator. Federica Rinaldi oversaw the Commodus Passage restoration, which she says was built so Roman emperors could enter the arena unseen by the crowds, protecting them from assassination. The passage also provided an element of drama, allowing an emperor to suddenly appear in his honor box overlooking the games. While most of the Colosseum was stripped of marble and decorative elements in the Renaissance, remnants remain in this secret passage, depiction of boar hunts, bear fights, and acrobatics, though none of the brutal gladiatorial spectacles. The restoration included cleaning the frescoes, reinforcing the vaults, and installing new lighting, says architect Angelica Puya.
The natural light used to seep through the holes on the ceiling.
For now, visitors can walk along about 30 meters of where emperors once tread, with plans to restore more of the passage next year. Megan Williams, CBC News, Rome.
That is World Report. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, Manitoba, and hello, Winnipeg. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app and YouTube. Don't forget extra rain gear today. At least not across southern Manitoba for sure. We'll hear about how much rain is going to fall in this very heavy rainfall system in a moment with Abby. Thanks for joining us here on CBC's Morning Show. This hour on the program, Emma Durand-Wood is the newest city councillor in Winnipeg. She represents Elmwood East Kildonan. After facing off against 6 candidates, she won on Saturday. She's in studio live to talk about her campaign and what she hopes to accomplish now that she's won a seat at City Hall. Also this hour on the show, data recently obtained by CBC shows a large proportion of people released with an ankle monitor in Manitoba end up getting arrested again. At 10 to 8, we're going to hear more about what experts and people involved in the justice system think of that initiative, one that we've had for a long time. Back in the day, remember, it kind of lifted its head and it was a big thing, and then it went away for a while and now it's back. But is it working? We'll look at this against the data, and that means with Caitlin Gowerlick, who's going to be often covers our courts, and is going to be in studio with us to walk us through this story. So that's looking ahead. Right now, though, Heather Wells has joined us live from our CBC News Center with headlines that she has. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, tenants at a West Broadway apartment building say they have endured a summer of chaos after new owners started extensive construction in July. Some people living at 640 and 644 Westminster Avenue say contractors entered their units without giving enough notice amid non-stop renovations. We're going to hear about that coming up. As well, the group representing Manitoba Crown Attorneys has walked away from negotiations with the province, Ben Wickstrom at the Manitoba Association of Crown Attorneys says Crowns are leaving this province for better wages and easier workloads in other provinces. We'll hear more about that as well, and why their workloads are getting even heavier these days. That's coming up in our next local news at 7:30.
All right, thank you, Heather.
Thanks.
Now, Abby is here to talk about the rain. It's not just rain. We actually have a rainfall. Like, we have a warning about it,
Yes, we have warning in effect for parts of southern Manitoba this morning. We're talking about for folks around the Selkirk area, Gimli area, Stonewall, Port-de-la-Prairie, towards Headingley, Cameron, Morden, Winkler, Altona-Morris, down to the U.S. border. We're tracking this slow-moving system, which will be bringing widespread rain through today into early tomorrow morning, with some spots picking up about between 30 to 60 millimeters of rain into Tuesday morning. The heaviest rain is expected around the western Red River Valley into the southern Interlake region, so be prepared for that. While in Winnipeg, we're going to see more like light but steady rain showers through the day. So heads up, roads are going to be slicky, and a few low lane areas could see brief flooding before the rain eases on Tuesday. Winnipeg right now, we're at 11, and we're just going to drop to 9 degrees today.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
And what we're talking about is actually not a warning. I should use the right language here. It's a special weather statement. So it's what Abby said, significant rainfall. Western Red River Valley, Southern Interlake, you're looking like you're going to get the most. Well, Corey's got wet pants today because he biked in and it was already raining.
It was not raining when I walked out the door, and then by the time I got here, I had wet pants. I may have been that guy with the blow dryer in the washroom trying to blow it out of the top of my thighs. So
there's a lot of you.
I imagine I'm not alone today. So shout out to everyone who's biking into work and doesn't have splash pants. So.
How is the commute?
Yes, got a call from Jill. So she says under the Jubilee overpass northbound Pembina, there's a collision in the far left lane. So that's making it tough, especially for people who want to turn left onto Stafford. You got to go right around that collision and then kind of merge back left. So as you can imagine, it's probably going to cause some backups potentially until that collision is cleared. That's the only issue I've heard of yet, but if you do see something going on, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number 204-788-3093.
Well, community activist Emma Durand Wood won the by-election, as we mentioned, for the council seat in Elmwood, East Kildonan over the weekend. The by-election was first called after the sudden death of Jason Schreier, the area's former longtime councillor who passed away in April. She was up against 6 other candidates, and she won by more than 1,500 votes, so winning handily. And she's in studio to talk more about her campaign in her neighborhood. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. How do you feel being a city councillor?
It is completely surreal.
Why did you want to do it? What motivated you to run in Elmwood EK?
Well, I never thought I would do anything like this in my life, but after Councillor Schreier passed away, people were talking about who's going to represent us next, and I had just so many neighbors and fellow advocates and friends and family encourage me to run and say they really wanted to do a campaign with me, and so we've had a completely community-driven campaign, and I just decided it was something I would do for the community.
Tell me a little bit about who you'd like to thank and what it felt like on Saturday when you realized, oh, okay then, yeah, I'm going to be a city councillor. I've won.
Yeah, well, I mean, my campaign team, which I had a core team of people who all just poured their hearts into things, and also a huge team of volunteers. We had over 100 volunteers over the course of the campaign, 50 volunteers working on E-Day. So it was just fantastic effort. All my folks who donated and just supported me in any way. And also a big thanks to all the folks who worked through the city and for elections on the day of, just making sure we had, fair and accurate elections. I think it's really important to acknowledge their work too.
You have lived in the neighborhood for a long time. You've also been, as I mentioned, advocate, a volunteer. You've worked with Trees Winnipeg. You've done a whole bunch of different things with the Elmwood Resource Centre out there, which is always a really active one. What are your top priorities for the neighborhood that you think really need doing?
Well, it was really interesting over the course of 4 months, knocking on almost every door in the ward and getting a sense of, what's important to people. And a lot of the things that came up were things that were already things that I thought were important to work on. So the biggest ones, reducing crime and reducing homelessness. People want to feel safe in their neighborhoods. They want their fellow Winnipeggers to have appropriate housing. And so that's a big one. And for me, that looks like doing everything we can to reduce poverty because there's such strong links between poverty and crime. Transit came up a lot, people having mixed experiences with our new system. I'm a transit user too, so I've been experiencing them as well. And I think the message is really clear. We need more investment in transit. And then just investing in community, especially investing in youth and making sure young people are connected in their communities, have, safe and productive ways to stay out of trouble and just have a good life.
In terms of what some of these issues look like specific to Elmwood, because a lot of our neighborhoods are talking transit and crime and homelessness, because these are citywide issues as well. For example, how's transit changes playing out? You said you use the bus. Could you use... The city wants to hear, and you're a councillor now.
And I have sent in my feedback to 311, just like everyone else.
What's the concern out in Elmwood?
So I think, the early ending, not having service late enough, especially for those folks who are working shifts or, just want to come home from a night on the town, it's really important that we have transit that meets, those needs. Stop placements, there's been some concerns from folks. I talked to one gentleman who's vision impaired. He bought his house because of the proximity to transit, and now it's all changed. So that's a big challenge. So, how can we meet the needs of those folks? For me, I see, some routes have really improved and some routes have kind of gone downhill. It feels like a bit of a downgrade in service.
We covered a couple of by-elections at other governmental levels, provincial and federal, in Elmwood EK. And so I was out in that neighborhood talking to people, and crime did come up a lot. What do you hope might change, especially given that when you look at crime sort of in Osborne Village, for example, you have a pocket neighborhood where, they set up an office now, they have a place to go. Elmwood's sort of spread out along Henderson Highway with its pocket neighborhoods behind, and then it spreads that way to the, to the east. So what do you see that could help with crime?
Yeah. Well, something that I see already helping is the Elmwood Unity Walk. And so that's one of these sort of community-based patrols that's out there. Just having a positive presence in the community and connecting with people who might need extra services, letting them know that there's someone that they can trust that wants to build up a relationship with them and get them things that they need. And I think that's a template we could be using in a lot more places because, they do a lot of work monitoring in sort of one part of Elmwood and checking out encampments and keeping tabs on things. But it's a great solution. And I just heard from someone the other day that he feels some of the improvements in Osborne Village are really having a positive impact. So we could look at maybe bringing that into Elmwood as well.
You said you have also said you want to fix budget woes with, quote, we need to do away with unaffordable mega projects and focus on many, many small impactful projects that need doing in our neighborhoods, end quote. Mega projects, what are you thinking about?
Well, I think we're talking about Kenaston. I think we're talking about Chief Pegwis. These are huge, huge, huge projects. And it's not to say that, some components of them are not important. Obviously the bridge in the Kenaston project, that has to be done. But in terms of widening roads, it's very, very, very expensive. We already have a huge infrastructure deficit, which means we can't pay for what we already have. So why are we talking about adding more,
You also want to reduce, this is an interesting promise you made, you want to reduce residential speed limits to 30 kilometers per hour, which has been a pilot in some neighborhoods of the city. We haven't fully gone there. Why do you believe that that's something that's needed in your neighborhood, in Elmwood EK, in your ward?
Yeah, well, so it's first of all, it's what science shows is what's needed to make everybody safer. Just makes people a lot safer from the risks of being hit by a vehicle, but it also reduces the number of collisions. And we have like 39 collisions a day on average in Winnipeg. That's a lot of people's lives disrupted in so many different ways. Very expensive, injuries. So that's what the science shows is kind of a best practice. But also prior to entering the race for this seat, I was involved in a group of folks who were out petitioning in the neighborhood and talking to hundreds of people, asking them their opinions on this. And going into it, I had the thought that it was going to be maybe controversial, maybe not popular. But we had a very high rate of people who were interested in having slower traffic on the street where they live. So I feel pretty confident. I know there's some naysayers out there, but I feel pretty confident that actually most people are in support of it or okay with it.
Just before you go this morning, tell Winnipeg, Manitoba, but you're Winnipeg City Councillor, one thing about you that you see as your greatest strength as a city councillor that you think, and one that you're like, okay, I'm going to have to work on that. For example, I'm very impatient. So, you'd have to bare your soul, but just to get to know you a little bit.
Well, I would say I'm a very collaborative person, and I think that's the way that you get things done. You know, you have to work with people, you have to find common ground. So I think that's a strength that I bring. Something I will need to work on is I'm an introvert. You know, it's that'll be a challenge being kind of on all the time. So I'll have to work on that.
Oh, that'll also come in handy when you're one-on-one with people on the phone, though.
Yeah.
And now they're going to call you.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Emma Durand-Wood. Thank you for being here.
Thanks so much.
That is the new city councillor for the city of Winnipeg. Full complement of councillors now. Emma Durand-Wood has won the seat in Elmwood, East Kildonan. She won handily on Saturday. If you want to read our coverage of that night in the story, cbc.ca/Manitoba.
I'm Suresh Das. I've spent my career writing about the local favorites that make Canada's food scene truly unique. I bit into a chili. Woo! From vibrant street food to comforting traditional dishes.
The most important ingredients in jollof rice, love.
To innovative, personal twists. Butter chicken lasagna.
Butter chicken lasagna, that's what made it all happen.
I believe every bite tells a story. Now, I want to share those stories with you.
New series Locals Welcome with Suresh Das. Watch free on CBC Gem.
Bit of music before sports at 7:23. Here is a Manitoba Métis singer-songwriter Brandy Vesna and her tune. This is Paper Town on CBC.
46 years old when the mill shut down. We started at the Rusty Nail. It ended up at Paper Town. Picture in a frame, him on a picket line. Tell my friends I ain't coming back. Tell my mama that I'm doing just fine. Sonny's chicken house, Robbie showed up drunk again, saying something about remember when we were on the charging floor, man. Ray J stayed in town, kept a stragglers couple alive. The Stones went to the Nationals. Those were very good times. Oh, kings of Paper Town. Here where sorrows drown, just another company town, where an old black train is all that remains of what life used to be. Chuck was drinking and dialing, 28 sleeps to go. No more crying to the radio. Daddy, when you're coming home. All down Cherry Street, vacant houses boarded up. Back roads and pickup trucks. Out of time and out of luck.
Brandy Vesna and Scott Nolan, that is Paper Town. By the way, you can catch Brandy Vesna at a couple of upcoming events here. We want to mention November 8th, first of all, Manitoba Country Music Awards Gala. She'll be performing there with Scott Nolan. And then during the Grey Cup Festival, November 14th here in Winnipeg, she's going to be alongside Alan Doyle, who's going to be in town. So you can check out lots of local music during the Grey Cup Festival coming up here in Winnipeg. It is 11 degrees, light rain falling. That's going to continue. We're going to get really wet, 15 to 25 millimeters. Lots of issues across the south with rain. And let's get to sports right now. The World Series in a moment. First, though, hockey with Scott Regehr. Good morning, Scott.
Hey, Marcy.
Jets up against one of the league's best teams.
Yeah, and hands up those of you who thought we'd be calling the Utah Mammoth one of the best teams in the NHL. Yeah.
No one's putting their hand up. Sorry.
No, yeah.
Sorry, Utah.
They won seven. They've won 7 in a row now after getting by the Jets yesterday, 3-2. A result that left Winnipeg coach Scott Arniel, to say the very least, frustrated.
First period was perfect. It's the type of game you have to play. Second period is the exact opposite. Decided that maybe that was too much of hard work. It's a broken record. Keep seeing this second period. We keep talking about these second periods. All it does, especially in our building, gives the opposition momentum. And second goal, terrible line change, back of the net.
Doesn't sound like the coach of a team that started the season 6-3, but does sound like a coach with the eyes on a cup this year, and we can't fault Scott Arniel for that. The Jets will play next tomorrow night against the Wild in Minnesota.
All right, let's go to baseball. The Jays on the road in Los Angeles tonight. No one really expected Friday, to be honest, in that way, I don't think.
No.
So it's hard to know what to expect out of tonight. What are you thinking?
Honestly, what I'm thinking is this is a pitching mismatch. The Dodgers are going with Cillian Murphy's doppelganger, Tyler Glasnow. But unlike the Peaky Blinders actor, Marcy, Glasnow stands 6'8" with a release point of around 7'4", the highest in the major leagues. So that makes his fastball feel like it's going well over 100 miles an hour to batters. And Glasnow's used it to great effect with the lowest playoff ERA of anyone. It's a microscopic 0.68. Given how Jays hitters fared at the plate in their Game 2 loss, yeah, I'm nervous for them. Meanwhile, Toronto's going to go with wizened veteran Max Scherzer, who at 41, well, surely this is Scherzer's last kick at the World Series can. This is his 4th appearance in the Fall Classic for his 4th different team, and he's not taking it for granted.
This is what you play for. It's so fortunate to have another crack at this. I mean, there's so many great players that have never gotten a World Series. So many great players where they only have one World Series. So I absolutely respect playing in a World Series, what that means, and absolutely cherish these opportunities. So, when I get a chance to get the ball, man, this means everything.
Now, it might not mean everything, Marcy, for Toronto, for Scherzer to pitch like he did against the Mariners in the previous series, but it means a lot. Teams who fall behind 2-1 go on to lose the Fall Classic around 3/4 of the time. So the hope here is Scherzer can hold his own for 5 innings or so, and Jays batters can somehow force Glasnow from the game early and get to that weak LA bullpen. That's a lot to wish for.
I'll tell you what, I think Canada still, we're all stone cold confident after going down to, 2-0 at home to Seattle. It's, I don't know, we might be too confident, but yeah, we understand anything can happen. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Meantime, I know you want to answer something here. You have an answer to a question that Jays fans were asking after Game 2.
No, your eyes were not deceiving you, Jays fans. That was Colonel Sanders behind the plate. A man looking very much like the founder of KFC with a white suit, hair and mustache, as well as that Van Dyke beard, was sitting just to the viewer's right of home plate. Turns out the fast food chain was behind that appearance, a bit of guerrilla marketing to raise awareness about their new baseball-themed sandwich, which I am not going to name, not going to do any more shilling on their behalf, but I know my wife and her many online friends were more focused on Harlan Sanders behind the plate than Vladdy Guerrero Jr. and company for much of that game on Saturday night. And I suspect with Rob Lowe behind home plate tonight at Dodger Stadium, the same thing's going to happen. 7:08 Central Time, first pitch.
All right. Thanks a lot, Scott. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Sounds good.
Scott Reguera with Morning Sports. A quick note here. Northbound Pembina, a collision in the left lane under the Jubilee overpass could cause you problems because you're under there. You want to swing around and you're going to have to dipsy-do around whatever's still there. That may, in fact, be cleared. So please update us if you can. 788-3093. After the news, we're going to meet a Future 40 finalist to try to entice you to get your name in the ring for 2025. Right now, though, your CBC News.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. Umbrellas up. We've got light rain, and we are at 11. We're going to see a lot of rain today. Periods of rain, 15 to 25 millimeters. More tonight. Windy again, and our temperature falling to 9 this afternoon. New numbers show more than half of people let out with an ankle monitor in Manitoba end up being rearrested or breaching their conditions. But experts and people involved in the system are divided on whether that means the program has been a success or a failure. University of Winnipeg criminologist Michael Weinrath says the latest data shows the ankle monitoring program isn't working.
I don't think you need a fella like myself with a PhD to tell people that these are not good numbers. I mean, they're pretty stark.
The government reintroduced the ankle monitoring program in August of last year. It had been scrapped in 2017 after a review found the devices were often inaccurate or ineffective. construction without permits, and unlawful entry into their homes. That's what several people living in a West Broadway apartment building allege happened to them this summer after it came under new ownership. The landlord argues they gave enough notice. That story now from CBC's Rosanna Hempel.
They chose the most vile way to get rid of us.
Mira Coop recently moved out of her beloved apartment after months of construction at her building when a new owner took over. She and other tenants allege their privacy, rights, and safety were violated in the process. They say the complex underwent major renovations without permits and that they didn't always get 24 hours notice before contractors came into their homes.
It was so unsettling and upsetting.
The contractor, Boss Construction, argues they did not need permits for the type of work they were doing, but says they applied for them when a city inspector came by last month and told them to stop work. Property management company Chandon Homes and the owner both say they gave enough notice to people living there, something tenants like Liam Simpson dispute.
We've had multiple requests of entry that either people don't show up or they don't give us the right notice and show up.
They hope speaking out helps hold the companies accountable. Rosanna Hempel, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The Manitoba Association of Crown Attorneys says the province is failing to meet its urgent needs. It filed a grievance over workloads 2.5 years ago. That was set to go to arbitration with the province last week, but the association says it agreed to mediation instead, a process that broke down. Ben Wickstrom at the Manitoba Association of Crown Attorneys says body cameras worn by RCMP have created more evidence for Crowns to go through, and proposed changes to the criminal code by the federal Liberals would mean even more work. But the province, he says, isn't offering up the resources.
It means Crown attorneys are spending more time in the courtroom fighting things out and advocating for the Crown's position, and you need more Crowns to do that. It really is the bottom line.
In a statement, Justice Minister Matt Weaves says he's disappointed and surprised the union walked away from negotiations, but says the province is prepared to stay at the table. The union says it's arranging new dates for arbitration. Federal Conservatives were talking bail reform at a town hall yesterday at Gateway Recreation Centre. Ramandeep Grewal was among dozens at the event. He supports tougher sentences and bail measures, but wants to see the Conservatives and governing Liberals work better together toward a solution.
I think it's a wastage of energy if we basically keep on singing the song from two different sources. It will be ideal. I think the situation warrants that we sit together in the parliament or behind the parliament scenes and then come up with some common solution.
Grewal says politicians of all stripes have to remember that part of their goal is to make life better for Canadians. The ASEAN summit is still happening in Kuala Lumpur, but U.S. President Donald Trump has already left. And true to his word, he did not speak to Prime Minister Mark Carney. Trump telling reporters on Air Force One he doesn't want to speak to Carney at the upcoming APEC summit either. Some of Trump's senior advisors suggest U.S. frustration with Canada is about more than the anti-tariff ads Ontario ran during the World Series, but Carney says that doesn't seem to be the case.
Those in the room, those exchanging term sheets, those having the discussions, had been making progress. Those ads came, the president had the reactions which you have seen, made the decisions that he has made, and we're in the situation we're in.
You can hear more national and international news coming up on World Report at 8. Another Jets game, another Mark Scheifele goal.
Good play to Mark Scheifele. Shot score!
Scheifele in the second period on TSN. Still, the Jets couldn't beat the Mammoth. Utah winning 3-2. It is their 7th straight win. They're on a roll. Winnipeg coach Scott Arniel wants his players to work for all 3 periods.
Still haven't put together a 60-minute game. So to me, it's bits and pieces of the third. Like I said, liked a lot of what happened in the first, but the second was way too sloppy. Way too easy for the opposition.
The Jets now take it on the road, playing in Minnesota tomorrow night. You can find more news updated throughout the day at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thanks, Heather Wells.
Thank you.
All right, let's get to this wet Monday and actually kind of a wet Tuesday too, but Abby's here with our regional forecast.
Yes, Maris, it's going to be holding steady, and we're going to be seeing mild temperatures in the northern part of the province. But down south, we still have that special weather statement in effect for parts of the Interlake. We're tracking it towards Port La Prairie and then the Pamela Valley region. We're looking at conditions towards the U.S. border. We're expecting about 30 to 60 millimeters of rain possible. The heaviest will be coming towards the western Red River Valley into southern Interlake this morning, making roads kind of slick this morning in some sport. For Winnipeg right now, we're looking at 11 degrees, light rain falling in the city, gentle south breeze. The rain is going to continue through the day, easing tonight, and we'll see temperatures drop to about 9 degrees. We're going to see that rain continue even into Tuesday before it tapers off. Similar conditions we're seeing in the Pamela Valley region, 11 degrees, also light rain falling. We're looking at 20 to 30 millimeters expected for that part of the province. Temperatures also falling to 9 degrees later. Brandon is already seeing light rain at this time, 9 degrees. We're looking at 10 to 15 millimeters of rain for that part of the province, and that would ease this evening. Then you drop to about 1 later in the day. For the Parkland region, Dauphin towards Roblin, we're tracking 10 degrees at this time. It is cloudy out there. It's going to stay more like an overcast kind of day. We'll see temperature just get to 11 degrees for that part of the province. For the Interlake region, light rain, mild south winds, 12 degrees right now. Expecting 15 to 25 millimeters before it eases tonight, with temperatures dropping to about 6 later in the evening, and then some clear conditions tomorrow. The power flame from surrounding communities, we're tracking between 5 and 7 degrees there. Clear conditions, expecting a mix of sun and clouds through the day, and temperatures will warm to about 11 degrees. Thompson, we're looking at 7 there. It is also clear. You warm to 11 later in the day, while further north in Churchill, we're seeing 9 degrees in that part of the province. Mostly cloudy at this time. Expect some drizzle, but that should clear, and then some sunshine will come your way. You warm to 14 later. So across board, Marcy, the south stays wet and soggy, while the north we're going to see more like dry and milder conditions. The rain down south will be tapering off tomorrow, but before then we should be seeing 60 millimeters of rain in some areas.
Okay, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Corey.
Got calls from both Jill as well as from another caller as well about northbound Pembina just under the Jubilee overpass in the far left lane. There's been a collision. Last I heard, still there, causing some backups. So people are trying to get right around there. But if you want to turn left onto Pembina, you kind of got to go right around there and then go back. There's also construction in the right lane, so it's just kind of a little bit of zigzagging through that area. Big backups heard from Jill. So heads up there. That's northbound Pembina, right under the Jubilee overpass. As well, got a call from David who mentioned that there's actually a big sinkhole. Now it has barricades around it, but it's something your car could fall into on Daly, just west of Fleet. So heads up there if you're heading down Daly today, you might get run into a bit of a sinkhole. It does have barricades now, so you shouldn't go into it, but might slow down your commute. If you see anything else going on out there, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number to call, 204-788-3093.
All right, thanks, Corey.
Thank you.
Well, I just want to take a moment to remind you of something, because the deadline to apply is coming up. I'm talking about CBC Manitoba's Future 40. And this is one of my favorite things that we do. Every 18 months, we recognize and honor an outstanding group of Manitobans under the age of 40 who are making a difference in our community. Now, what community? Any community in Manitoba, wherever you live, wherever you work, wherever you volunteer, whatever you do. Is it your spirit? Is it your day job? Is it those volunteer hours? Do you coach? Do you paint? Do you do inspirational speaking? Whatever it is that makes you outstanding, 40 or under, or someone you know, give it a shot. Nominate someone or nominate yourself. Don't be shy to be one of CBC Manitoba's Future 40 finalists. It's always really nice when we get the group together. We learn about the accomplishments of people. We celebrate people on our airwaves here as well. And then it culminates as well with just some nice photos and getting together as well to do some features on our website to honor your work. So do not be shy, but do be quick, because the finalists, the deadline for nominating someone to be a Future 40 finalist is this week. So you can nominate an outstanding individual or yourself. The deadline is Wednesday at midnight. And it's easy to nominate someone. You're not going to be on the website filling out 10 pages of paperwork. You do, though, have to do a bit of it. So visit cbc.ca/Manitoba/community for more information and get those nominations in for CBC Manitoba's Future 40 finalists. Really looking forward to seeing what we come up with for this group. 7:41 a.m. Monday morning on CBC 89.3 FM. And there are so many ways to track our health now. For example, wearables. Maybe you have one on this morning. They assess things like stress, sleep quality, even blood oxygen and sugar levels. Now a type of technology, though, is emerging for health monitoring that goes somewhere that we actually haven't gone before. In our toilets. CBC's Jason Osler has more.
That sound is more than just a toilet flush to Emma Allen Verco. It's the sound of valuable data escaping. She's a professor of microbiology and Canada Research Chair at the University of Guelph.
A lot of people probably don't really want to look in the toilet. You want to flush it away and get rid of it as quickly as you can. But it can actually give you lots of information.
As in information on what's happening in the body. Now, products are emerging to help us better understand that. Like this one from Kohler that attaches to your toilet bowl and has cameras facing the water.
Dakota uses advanced spectroscopy sensors to seamlessly analyze what your body leaves behind. Its sleek, self-clamping design blends seamlessly into any bathroom.
The company claims the device will help give someone a better picture of their gut health. After authorizing use of the device with your fingerprint, it uses the cameras and sensors to assess what it's seeing and sends analysis to the company's app. It's not available in Canada just yet, but it costs $600 and also requires a subscription. There's another similar device called Throne One coming to market as well. Throne CEO Scott Hickel explained recently on the Air CFO podcast what he hopes it can help achieve.
The ultimate vision is to build what we call the smoke detector for colon cancer, which will ultimately save lives by getting people in to get colonoscopies earlier than they otherwise would.
There's even a product called the U-Scan Nutrio from a company called Withings that analyzes liquids.
A groundbreaking way to track your body's response to nutrition through the world's first toilet plug-in urine scanner.
Emma Allen Verco says while she can't speak to how accurate or reliable any of these devices are, the idea of regular monitoring has merit compared to a singular sample you may provide at a doctor's appointment.
You can get a much better view of what's going on if you take a daily sample. Over time, that's where AI is really going to help you because it will be able to sort of see where changes are happening and perhaps, again, predict changes in your health that might benefit from early intervention.
Allen Verco says there's an added interest in gut health right now. She even receives unsolicited emails sometimes where people send her pictures of their toilet bowls for her to assess. Allen Verco says she wonders if this new tech for toilets would ever be used by the people who might benefit most, those who don't pay attention to their health.
My fear is though that the kinds of people that would subscribe to this kind of technology at the moment are the kinds of people that perhaps worry too much about their health, and this just gives them another thing to worry about, if you like. It's very good to be aware of what's going on in your body. It's not very good at all to panic about every little change that happens.
The toilet attachments speak to a point in time where health tech is advancing quickly.
It's really a super interesting time, I think.
Carolyn Sperry is an associate professor of mechatronic systems engineering at Simon Fraser University.
There certainly are a lot of great camera technologies that are used in a huge range of medical applications. So even one of my colleagues has developed a camera technology that does analysis of moles so that you can detect whether or not a mole is likely to be cancerous or not.
But Sperry has her reservations about the toilet cameras and the accuracy of what they're seeing.
There's a pool of water that you've now got to image through, and light gets distorted when it travels through fluids as opposed to air. Is it even as simple as somebody's got higher water pressure, they've got more water in their toilet bowl, and now that changes your image quality? Like, there's so many factors in there to look at.
And Sperry says not only are there those types of factors, there's also accounting for the fact that every single person's body is different.
There's lots of different ways you could be looking at different optical features, but then that becomes really difficult because in order to define what's not normal, you have to have a massive data set of what's normal. And in health research, everybody will tell you that there are always outliers.
Like any new health-related technology, there's a lot to consider as cameras for our toilets make their way to market. For CBC Radio, I'm Jason Osler.
Gotta look in the toilet, people. I'll never forget first year university. I was studying biology. I know. People are thinking, really? I thought I was going to be a lab technician. Anyway, I loved the sciences at that point in my life. And I was studying bio, and then I was sitting beside this guy, and he was in medicine. And he was so funny because he just came from some kind of a lecture, and all he said to me all class was, you have to look in the toilet. You need to look in the toilet. You need to understand the color of your urine, and here's what it means. Then he was pulling out a chart and showing me all his learning. He was so excited. But you know what? It's advice for our health, right? And now all these new tech ways to track everything in our bodies. Fascinating. By the way, if you want to hear any of Jason's other trends or takes on stories, you can check out the CBC Listen app for his work. That's Jason Osler with that column today. Right now, it is 7:47 a.m. We got an update from Ann on the commuter line. The collision is clear now, northbound Pembina under the Jubilee overpass. So that's good news. So that is now clear going for you. Coming up this half hour on the show, we're going to build on a story that you've heard on the news. New data on people released with ankle monitors in Manitoba is raising questions about how successful that initiative has been. So we will get the full report on that coming up right after a piece of music from Fuller Hall. This is Fuller Hall, Manitoba-based. Tune's called Different Days.
I might be better off alone. I couldn't leave here if I tried. Turn the handle on the door, turn around and go back inside. Couldn't guess that these four walls could hold my broken heart, my man and my kids would be only torn apart. I think about those different days and all that time gone away. I ain't got much more to say about that. The heart wants what the heart wants, but it don't always get what it needs. And the only time that love stops is when you can't control the bleeds. I think about those different days and all that time slipped away. I ain't got much more to say about that. I know, yeah, I know, it's all gone for good. They're finding their own way, and this house won't clean itself. At the end of the day, our wedding picture sits on a shelf.
Different Days, music from Fuller Hall out of Manitoba. Describes his music as a blend of modern folk and classic country, and that checks for that tune. Great songwriting. 9 minutes to 8 o'clock now on 89.3 FM on CBC. And next on the morning show, as you've been hearing in the news, it's been over a year since Manitoba started letting some people out of custody with ankle monitors. The devices use 24/7 GPS tracking. They allow authorities to communicate with the people wearing them in real time through voice, audio, and vibration commands to try and prevent repeat offending and ensuring people on bail follow conditions. Now, data released, though, and obtained by CBC News shows that more than half of the people released with ankle monitors end up being rearrested or breaching their conditions. The CBC's Caitlin Garlick has more on the numbers and what people involved in the justice system have to say about them. She's in studio with more. Good morning.
Good morning.
So what can you tell us about these numbers that you've got on these ankle monitors?
So since this initiative was introduced last August, we know now more than 500 people have been released wearing an ankle monitor, including over 160 people still wearing one in Manitoba as of October 16th. We also know that about 60% of the people released with those devices ended up either being rearrested or breaching their conditions while on release. That includes over 200 people rearrested either for breaches or for new crimes, more than 50 who just took the device off and took off, and more than a dozen who damaged the strap.
What can those numbers tell us about how well this initiative is working?
It sort of depends who you ask. So, for example, University of Winnipeg criminal justice prof. Michael Weinrath says there often is interest generally in electronic monitoring like this because that physical bracelet that people wear kind of gives this idea of security, right? Even if he says it doesn't necessarily always work that way. But he also says the latest numbers on Manitoba's ankle monitoring initiative shows it's been a failure.
I don't think you need a fella like myself with a PhD to tell people that these are not good numbers. I mean, they're pretty stark. You know, even the most optimistic or cautious observer would see that these statistics are very poor.
But on the other hand, you have someone like Christopher Gamby, who's a lawyer and the communications director for the Criminal Defense Lawyer Association of Manitoba. He says determining this initiative's success sort of depends how you measure that. So when an ankle monitor detects someone breaching their conditions, they're, say, out after curfew or they're somewhere they're not supposed to be, is that a failure because that person broke the rules? Or is it a success because the device caught them doing it?
If you believe that the objective of the program was to make it so that individuals would never reoffend and would never breach their conditions, I suppose you could suggest that the program was not doing what it is intended to do. But I don't think that's really what the actual intention is, and I don't think that's a realistic way to look at it. If you have individuals who are being rearrested for failing to comply with the program, that's probably a success story ultimately.
So where do the numbers come from? How do we get these?
So initially, we asked the province if they could give us these numbers, and they refused. But more recently, I heard similar numbers come up during a couple of bail hearings in court, where prosecutors were using these numbers, and specifically the fact that so many people on ankle monitors end up being rearrested, to argue against people's release during bail hearings. After we got those numbers, Justice Minister Matt Wieb's office then gave us more updated data.
So what else do prosecutors have to say, because you mentioned them, about the ankle monitoring numbers during those bail hearings?
So in one of the more recent hearings, a Crown attorney brought up these numbers to argue against bail for a man accused of domestic violence-related offenses, saying those numbers really highlight the limits of releasing people on ankle monitors. And in another recent hearing for a prolific accused shoplifter, a different Crown attorney went even further, calling the ankle monitoring program's failure rate staggering. He also said his office was at the time working on another case where a person was accused of stealing from a drugstore while wearing an ankle monitor. Criminologist Michael Weinrath says this pattern of prosecutors using these numbers to argue ankle monitoring is ineffective presents a bit of a problem.
It's concerning that the Justice Department is investing in electronic monitoring, and the minister is pronouncing that they're making an effort to help Manitobans and keep them safe. And then internally, people who are working in the department are not supportive of the program, but you can't blame them.
If we just take a step back for a second here, Caitlin, how long has Manitoba had the ankle monitoring program for, and what do we spend on it?
So the current iteration of this program was just brought back in August of last year, so 2024. The NDP budgeted $2.9 million over 2 years with the option to continue if the program was successful. It then later expanded the program from 100 devices up to 200 ankle monitors at an additional cost of $1.2 million for the year. That announcement, as we know, came during really heightened criticism of the bail system across Canada and calls for change from both inside Manitoba and across the country. And I should also say the current ankle monitoring program is also not the first time we've done this in Manitoba. So a similar program was scrapped by the previous PC government in 2017, which followed a review initiated when the prior NDP government was in power that determined the bracelets were often inaccurate or ineffective. And the ankle monitors there had been introduced in 2008 to keep an eye on chronic car thieves and later people convicted of domestic assault.
Yeah, I remember them around the car thieves. We had all kinds of problems with cars at that time being stolen here. So you talked to the Justice Minister. What does the minister say about the latest numbers then on the current ankle monitoring system?
So we talked to Justice Minister Matt Wiebe about these numbers recently. He says he thinks ankle monitors have been successful in Manitoba, in part because of how they help police find people who have broken the rules.
If somebody breaches or, God forbid, there is a serious offense that's committed while using the electronic monitoring, they now have the ability to go directly to that person, rearrest them, or bring them into custody. That's a tool that we just didn't have before.
What about criminologist Michael Weinrath and defense lawyer Christopher Gamby, who had differing opinions at the beginning of your report? What do they think should be the focus now that we have these numbers about how this ankle monitoring for people on bail is going?
So they may have, like you suggested, sort of disagreed on what the numbers showed us about ankle monitoring, but both Weinrath and Gamby talked about the importance of addressing the root causes of crime. Weinrath says he thinks that's probably a better way to spend the millions of dollars the province has budgeted for ankle monitors. And Gamby says while he doesn't think it's accurate to say ankle monitoring has failed, it does have limits, and it's ultimately not what's going to help reduce crime in Manitoba.
We should forget about this idea that we're going to control people and try to understand why it is they're doing what it is they're doing and do what we can to help them. That is probably a better way to go to reduce the incidence of crime in our province than making any modifications to bail or adding ankle monitors or anything of the sort. This is a limited tool and it should be viewed as such.
Caitlin, thanks for coming in and explaining these numbers. They were really kind of startling when I heard them in the news.
You're welcome.
Caitlin Garlick, her report, by the way, online, cbc.ca/Manitoba, if you want to read even more in detail. She, of course, is a reporter here with CBC Manitoba, covers a lot of our court and crime issues. Light rain falling, 11 degrees. Let's go to Heather with our CBC Manitoba news update.
Good morning. Well, construction without permits, unlawful entry into their homes. That's what several people living in a West Broadway apartment building allege happened to them this summer after the building came under new ownership. The landlord argues they gave enough notice. And the group representing Manitoba Crown attorneys has walked away from negotiations with the province. The union filed a grievance back in 2023 calling on the Manitoba government to address heavy caseloads by increasing wages and recruiting more prosecutors. Ben Wickstrom at the Manitoba Association of Crown Attorneys says Crowns are now leaving for better wages and workloads in other provinces. I'll be back with more Manitoba news coming up at 8:30.
All right, thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Light rain falling as mentioned, but it's going to be a lot of it. So we're talking a slow system that's moving in, and it's just going to keep raining. 15 to 25 millimeters in Winnipeg today. Tonight, further 10 to 20. And just wet. Temperature's going to fall to 9 in Winnipeg. It's also raining in Brandon. It's clear up in Thompson, nice and clear and 8 degrees. And a special weather statement for western Red River Valley and the southern Interlake, where you could see localized amounts of 60 millimeters of rain. So get ready for that. Traffic-wise, 788-3093 with any updates. And still ahead, we're going to talk about winter tires. We're going to break down the basics of installing them and also where you can save some money. Stay tuned.
On cue. As one of the most acclaimed opera singers of our time, Renee Fleming has sung at some of the most prestigious concert halls, but she'll tell you she did it with severe stage fright.
White knuckle it through a performance. You're just thinking, oh my God, how am I going to do this?
She'll be here to talk about that and how it inspired her to look at the connection between music and health.
Q with Tom Power, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on CBC Listen, or wherever you get your podcasts. Up in half an hour, it's The Current.
I'm Catherine Cullen. The glitter is fading in the diamond market as prices fall dramatically, but many customers are seeing cheaper lab-grown diamonds as a sparkling alternative and no longer as a cut-price knockoff. That's coming up on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young.
Have you had any contact with President Trump since Thursday?
I have not.
Prime Minister Mark Carney at the ASEAN summit this morning in Kuala Lumpur confirming U.S. President Donald Trump left the talks without speaking to him. That prompted a flurry of questions about the future of Canada-U.S. negotiations and whether a trade deal with the Trump administration is even possible. Murray Brewster has more.
In any complicated, high-stakes negotiation, You can get unexpected twists and turns, and you have to keep your cool during those situations.
Prime Minister Mark Carney, with his best poker face, over the fact that he and U.S. President Donald Trump haven't spoken since trade talks were scuttled last week.
It doesn't pay to be upset. Emotions don't carry you very far.
That may be Carney's playbook. It certainly isn't Trump's. The U.S. president is still steamed over the Ontario government-sponsored anti-tariff ad that has been running in the United States. Trump says he has no intention of talking with Carney for a long time. The fact that they haven't spoken is not a good sign, and an indication that not only are sectoral trade talks on ice, so is the often hyped rapport between the two men. Carney says we have to take Trump at his word that the ad is the only thing he's offended about and that there's nothing else at play. The Prime Minister declined to blame Ontario Premier Doug Ford for crashing and burning the negotiations.
And others will have opinions, and others welcome free advice, unsolicited advice is entirely appropriate. Every Canadian is a stakeholder in these negotiations.
In the end, Carney says the federal government is the one in the negotiating room and talks with the U.S. will resume when it's appropriate. Murray Brewster, CBC News, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia.
Javier Milei, Argentina's controversial libertarian president, is celebrating midterm election results.
Soy el rey de destrozar toda la casta es de mi apetito.
His La Libertad Avanza party scored more than 40% of the vote. Not enough for a congressional majority, but still a huge show of support for Milei and his policies. This election was seen as a referendum on the president, and analysts were expecting him to fare poorly. Milei is an ally of Donald Trump, but his popularity had dropped in recent months in an ongoing economic crisis and corruption allegations involving his sister. Hamas says it is expanding its search for the remains of 13 hostages still in Gaza. The militant group says it has provided the Red Cross and Israel with information on the possible locations of some of the remains. But the search for others continues. It's been over 2 weeks since the U.S. brokered ceasefire went into effect. Still hanging in the balance, the demilitarization of Gaza and the disarmament of Hamas. The CBC's Crystal Mansing has the latest from Jerusalem.
Israeli officials granted special access for Egyptian teams to enter Gaza. They're working near Han Yunis searching for the remains of hostages. Israel also allowed Hamas and the Red Cross behind its yellow military line. On Sunday, Hamas members armed and dressed all in black were seen moving with Red Cross officials in Rafah. Information was shared about the possible whereabouts of a soldier taken in 2014. The Red Cross tells CBC it works as a trusted intermediary between parties when information is shared. It doesn't participate in any searches. Major barriers, however, still lie ahead for long-term peace in Gaza. Chief Hamas negotiator Khalil El-Hayat told Al Jazeera Sunday the weapons they carry are linked to the occupation of Palestinian territories. When that ends and a Palestinian state established, the weapons will be turned over to the state. The Israeli government opposes the creation of a Palestinian state. And as a part of the peace agreement, Israel and the U.S. both demand Hamas turn over its weapons. Shashash Bedrosian is an Israeli government spokesperson.
Gaza will be demilitarized. And
Hamas and other Palestinian factions met recently in Cairo, recommitting to the agreement and supporting an independent temporary Palestinian technocratic committee to oversee basic services in Gaza. Crystal Gamansing, CBC News, Jerusalem.
Jamaica is bracing for Hurricane Melissa. Heavy rain and strong winds whipped the southeast coast near the town of Portmore. The Category 5 storm is getting closer, and it is expected to get stronger before it makes landfall in Jamaica late tonight. Right now, Melissa is packing winds of up to 220 kilometers an hour, and officials say it could bring storm surges of nearly 4 meters. Mandatory evacuation orders have been issued for parts of Kingston and 6 other areas. Cuba and the Bahamas are also in Melissa's path. It's been a year since Canada experienced one of its biggest measles outbreaks in decades, and medical experts warn it could happen again. They say more needs to be done now to prevent another resurgence. Lauren Pelly has the story.
I think it's inevitable that there will be more cases of measles in Canada.
1 year after Canada declared a measles outbreak, new infections have died down, but concern about the future remains high. McMaster University immunologist Dawn Bodish said childhood vaccination rates have dropped in recent years, while entire pockets of the country remain unprotected. She's among those calling for a national vaccine registry for better tracking to help target public health efforts.
It is shocking that Canada is one of the few countries in the G7 that doesn't have such a thing.
If chains of measles transmission continue past October, it's also possible Canada could lose its measles elimination status from the World Health Organization.
Quite frankly, if we were to lose our status, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing at an international level.
But Toronto infectious disease specialist Dr. Isaac Bogosh says that outcome isn't a sure thing. He said more targeted outreach to under-vaccinated communities could help boost uptake and stop the spread of one of the world's most contagious diseases. Lauren Pelly, CBC News, Toronto.
Canada's hunger crisis is getting worse. That is the finding from a new report from Food Banks Canada. The 2025 Hunger Count report shows that there were nearly 2.2 million visits to food banks in the month of March alone. That is a 5% jump from the previous year. Food Banks Canada wants Ottawa to extend and increase benefits to self-employed Canadians, disability benefit recipients, and those on employment insurance. A Victoria man is telling the story of how he fell victim to one of the biggest ever scams reported in Canada. He lost his entire life savings to someone posing as a bank investigator. But he says the most shocking part is that two major banks didn't stop it. The CBC's Erica Johnson has more in this Go Public investigation.
Can't think of anything else, day in and day out.
89-year-old Ray Anholt was left penniless after scammers convinced him to hand over his life savings, almost $1.7 million. It started with a phone call, someone posing as a bank employee with CIBC. He said Anholt's identity had been stolen, his money was at risk, and he needed to pull it all out of the bank and hand it over to a courier who'd collect it for safekeeping.
I assumed they were telling me the truth.
As he repeatedly pulled out thousands, CIBC warned him activity on his account was unusual, but let him keep withdrawing. Ray's son, Lee Anholt, says it was worse at RBC.
They're not asking for ID. They're not asking any questions. They're shoveling his money out the door, and I can't believe that nobody raised any red flags.
Bank accountability advocate Duff Conacher says it's problematic.
It's horribly negligent pattern at both CIBC and RBC.
Conacher says Canada needs protections like Australia and the UK. They've introduced laws that could hold banks liable for failing to prevent fraud. But there was no mention of similar protections when the federal government announced new anti-fraud measures last week. Meantime, CIBC said its investigation is ongoing. RBC said it has now resolved the issue with Ray Anholt, but didn't say how. Both banks told Go Public they have robust policies in place to deal with fraud. Erica Johnson, CBC News, Vancouver.
Beneath its snowy metal, cold and clean, the unborn grass lies waiting for its coat to turn to green.
Anne Murray has a signature sound, and tonight she is being celebrated in Nashville. It's an all-star tribute in a historic location, the Opry House. Trisha Yearwood, Natalie Grant, Katie Lang, and Martina McBride will all perform, and Anne Murray herself will be there. She's 80 years old now and still the most decorated Juno honoree. 24 wins. She's also a 4-time Grammy winner and a member of the Canadian Music Hall of Fame. That's World Report. I'm Marcia Young.
And take the snow back with you.
Good morning, everyone. It is Monday. It is wet. Hopefully you had a great weekend. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thanks for starting your day with CBC's Information Radio, 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. Well, it's wet now, but at some point, folks, this is going to turn to the white stuff. It is also going to turn to the ice. And already over the weekend, right, we're starting to see those conditions. They get a little slick. The question is, are you going to put on winter tires? Love it or hate it, you have to start preparing for this. A lot of people do put winter tires on. If you're looking to save a few bucks and do it yourself this year, we actually are going to go through some of the basics so you can do that this half hour on the show. And we're also going to hear from some people about why they put on winter tires. There's been various, stories about this over the years. Some people say if you have all seasons, you're fine. Others say no, it should be winter tires. And of course, other provinces have laws, like in Quebec, where you have to put on winter tires. They're mandatory. Stay tuned. It's all about that this half hour. First, though, other headlines with Heather Wells.
Good morning. Well, new numbers show more than half of people let out with an ankle monitor in Manitoba end up being rearrested or breaching their conditions. But experts and people involved in the system are divided on whether the program has been a success or a failure. Construction without permits, unlawful entry into homes. That's what several people living in a West Broadway apartment building allege happened to them this summer after the building came under new ownership. The landlord argues they gave enough notice. We'll hear more in our next local news coming up at 8:30.
Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Abby, we're looking at the weather now. Obviously, it's raining and going to keep doing it.
Yeah, we have rain across the southern part of the province. And if you check the map now, it's already sweeping towards the Brandon area. And we're seeing rain in Dauphin also at this time. We do have special statements in effect for parts of southern Manitoba due to this low-moving system bringing steady and heavy rain through the region into tomorrow morning. Some areas we're looking at 30 to 60 millimeters, and the heaviest will fall across the western part of the River Valley region today into the southern part of the Interlake region. While in Winnipeg, it's just going to be more like light but steady rain through the day. So if you're on the road, take it easy. It might be slippery at some spots, and also you might notice, water piling up in some parts of the road. So take it easy. Winnipeg right now, 13, light rain falling. We're dipping to 9 degrees, and that's what the condition would look like in most of the southern part of the province. While up north, we're seeing mostly clear conditions, mild winds, temperatures around 11 degrees for most regions up north. But the south, we're going to see temperatures drop towards that 9 degrees for today. Winnipeg, 13, and the rain is going to be easing tomorrow, so expect lots of rain today.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Corey Funk, what do you know about the commute?
Yes, according to the Winnipeg Traffic Management System, St. James Bridge northbound, the curb and middle lanes are closed right now by the Winnipeg Fire Paramedic Service. Not too sure exactly what the issue is there. And I also don't know if that means that you can actually merge onto Portage from there or not. But I do know that it says the middle and curb lanes are closed on northbound St. James Bridge right now. That's all I know that's going on out there. But if you have an update for what you're seeing there, if you've driven past it, I would love to get an update on what you're seeing. I imagine it could be pretty backed up right now on Route 90 northbound. Give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number 204-788-3093.
Let's talk about something in traffic this weekend that I found quite funny. So I have a bit of a thing going on with my neck and my back, and so I wasn't able to really move much. So I was going to get it massaged and whatever. Why am I telling you all this? Because in the car, I brought this. So people can see on our YouTube stream if you're watching, and you can hear this. Okay, have a listen. Does anyone have one of these massage guns? Like, they're the greatest thing ever.
I've got one for after races. It's really handy dandy.
So my husband says to me, let me turn this thing off. My husband says to me, you better be careful when you're driving around Winnipeg, like pulling this up at the stoplights, right? Like holding it around.
Yeah.
Like it looks like a weapon or a radar gun, right? So yes, we'll just put this over here. We won't use it during the interviews. We are going to be hitting the road, though. I might pack that. I'll just be careful with where I wave it. Next week, we're going to Flin Flon.
Yes, we are heading out to Flin Flon next week. We'll be there Tuesday to Thursday, and we are going to be doing a live show from the Orange Toad on Thursday morning.
Yeah, so really excited about that. Another Communities in Focus initiative. Going to listen about Flin Flon. What do people have to tell us about their community, their needs? Really unique trade issues. You can imagine the borders right there they share with Saskatchewan. And just a really cool place. One of our most northern cities. And 5,000 people living in Flin Flon, and just really looking forward to exploring it.
And of course, we know that the fire was there, but that's not what we're there just to talk about. Yeah. We want to hear more about your community, what things are going on. Who are the people that make your community what it is?
So you can call us if you have a pitch for Flin Flon. If you're up there and you're listening, 788-3205. You can also email radio893@cbc.ca. Well, winter is coming, and it means, as I mentioned, time to maybe start thinking about winter tires and wheels. The best time to change them is when the temperature falls below 7 degrees for 7 consecutive days, according to MPI. So we're not quite there yet because we've had some seasonal, above normal seasonal conditions. But now is still a good time to start thinking about what your options might be. We first wanted to know if people know how to put on their winter wheels and tires themselves. CBC's Jennifer Dosso asked some drivers at the Forks.
Lyndon Patrick Agnes.
Hey, so have you ever changed a tire before?
Many times.
What was that experience like?
Most times it was okay, except for when I was in desert, it was too hot.
Ryan Precourt. The first time I changed it, it was a little nerve-wracking, but I knew how to do it and figured it out.
My name is Jan Yardley. Quite difficult, because I can't undo the nuts and bolts because they're all put on by machine.
I'll tell you when it's difficult and quite horrible thing, but I would prefer somebody using other people to change it. But changing it yourself in a place like this is a bit difficult.
Who first taught you how to change your tire?
The internet?
Who first taught you how to change your own tire?
Nobody, self-taught.
Self-taught?
I just seen people and I just did it.
Who taught you how to change a tire?
The Girl Guides in the UK.
My dad taught me when I was very young then. That was when I was about 9-10 years then. We usually help him to change his tire.
So after hearing about that, are you inspired to do it yourself? Let's talk winter tires with our next guest. He's taught hundreds of students everything they need to know about changing wheels and tires. Patrick West is here, an instructor at the Automotive Service Technology program over at the Manitoba Institute of Trades and Technology, and he joins us via Zoom so you can watch if you're lucky as he walks us through this. Hey there, Patrick.
Good morning.
Thanks for being with us this morning.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that you're right in the middle of the automotive section there. I can see the equipment around you in the background. What did you think when you were listening? Is it surprising to you that people find changing their wheels and tires difficult, that they don't know how to do it?
No, not really surprising. It can be a daunting task if you don't have the know-how for it or if you don't have the tools, and especially if you haven't done it before. It can be a challenging task to do for sure.
Who taught you how to do it?
Who taught me? I think I taught myself, actually. I'm thinking back to the first time I got a flat tire. I think I just figured it out on the side of the road.
What makes people nervous about it, do you think, in the first place? Because when you think about it, the principle of it shouldn't be nerve-wracking at all, right? You're going to undo some of the bolts and you're going to take the thing off and put something back on. What do you think makes people nervous about it?
I think what I stress about with my students here at MITT first is just the safety portion of it. So remembering starting off by doing it in an area, you need a flat, level surface, preferably something that's not wet. You know, you need to be comfortable working, and it's got to be a safe place for the car to sit for a couple minutes or however long it takes you to do the job.
If you are on the side of the road and you're having to do this, like if it's an emergency tire change and not a winter tire sort of seasonal thing, obviously that's just pull over even further. But what should you always have in your trunk just in case?
Most people start with spare tires. So actually, if you check the owner's manual in your car, which might be in the glove box, you might have a paper copy or you might have a DVD copy. Some vehicles have that, or a digital version you can access on your phone. But that'll have a section for a spare tire that should tell you exactly where your tools are located and what tools you're going to need and what is all in the car.
You just cut out there at the very beginning of that answer. So you were saying that people, if they've never looked, are going to have some of these tools already in their car, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
They should be in the trunk. If you check your owner's manual, it'll tell you exactly where in the car they should be.
And if you don't, like what if you bought a used car, nothing's there, you haven't looked in a million years, what would you throw in the trunk?
Good things to have, definitely toque and gloves. It's always good to have, if you're changing a spare tire on the side of the road, you want to have your hazard lights on so that people can see you. They're aware that your car's pulled over. Good tools to have: a breaker bar, torque wrench, some sockets that fit the size of your lug nuts. And of course, you're going to need some wheel chocks and the jack for your vehicle.
Walk us through the basics. I know we're on radio here. It's not very exciting, but walk us through the basics. So here I am. I'm going to take my tire off, put my tire on. What am I doing?
Yeah, for sure. So first thing, you obviously want to start with the vehicle's got to be off and in park. So first thing, you don't want the vehicle rolling away on you. Next thing you're going to want to do is chalk one of the wheels. So the general rule is that if I'm working on, let's say, the left front wheel, I want to remove that. I should chalk the diagonally opposite wheel. So I want to put wooden blocks or wheel chalks, if I have them, on the right rear wheel.
What's a chalk?
Wheel chalk, basically it's like it's a block that holds the wheel in place.
Okay.
So I put one in front of the wheel and I put one behind the wheel, and then the vehicle can't roll while I'm lifting it up.
And then what are you doing?
After that, so either if I have my tire iron from the trunk, or if I have my breaker bar in a socket, I'm gonna go loosen all the lug nuts on that tire that I want to remove. I don't want to take them completely off just yet, but I want to loosen them off so that I can turn them by hand.
Okay. Then you start turning them by hand, and then what?
Then, so at this point, you're going to take a look in your owner's manual and you're going to find out where your jack point is. So there should be, on some vehicles, it'll be on a pinch weld or underneath the frame. But your owner's manual is going to tell you exactly where to place that jack to safely lift up the vehicle. So once you have it placed, you can start lifting up the vehicle enough so that that tire is off the ground.
Now, because we're on radio and this doesn't play as well on radio, obviously after that, you're putting the tire back on, you're jacking the car back down. I want to spend our remaining time asking you about winter tires. I'm curious whether or not you don't have to weigh in, but I'm curious your thought on winter tires, because in other provinces, we've had this conversation every winter here on the air. They're mandatory, right? In some parts of BC, on some highways, in Quebec, they're mandatory. We're often called a winter province, and yet they're not mandatory. How useful are they on our roadways?
I think winter tires are always going to be, they're going to always be advantageous over all season tires. It always depends on, what kind of brand you buy, what kind of rubber compound they are. The softer rubber gets better traction when it gets colder and when you're driving on ice and snowy surfaces. So I think they're always advantageous to have. But it's also coupled with just driving safely, reducing your speed, and being conscious of the weather conditions.
All the things you want to keep in mind as it turns. And I guess just last, if someone's going to use, the interview for some inspiration, go change the tires out, maybe do the winter ones today. What do you keep in mind as you're storing your wheels and your tires for the next year?
It's kind of the easy part. Usually just keeping them inside is ideal. So put them in the garage or a shed. Out of the elements is better. But storing is usually the easy part for that.
All right, Patrick.
Some shops will actually store them for you for a small fee too. But,
all right, Patrick, thank you very much for this morning. It's going to snow at some point here in Winnipeg. Not today. We have a rainy day ahead, but we appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Bit of a 101. We don't do a lot of those seasonal interviews, but that's Patrick West, an instructor in the Automotive Service Technology program at the Manitoba Institute of Trades and Technology. And you know what? The phone line always fills up, so might as well ask. Winter tires, yes or no? Should they be mandatory or not? And also, why do you use them or not? 788-3205.
North of North is in fashion. Literally. CBC and the WAG are partnering to present Crafted on the Catwalk November 4th, a fashion show featuring cast members of the breakout comedy displaying designer clothes from Manitoba and the North. Then shop for fine handmade goods at Crafted Show and Sale November 7th to 9th. Visit cbc.ca/Manitoba/community for more, including an exclusive North of North screening and meet and greet.
Cold spot right now is Swan River at 0. Warm spot is Great Falls at 13 degrees. In Winnipeg, we're 11. We won't stay that warm. Our temperature will fall to 9, and we are getting about 15 to 25 millimeters of rain. It's just going to be steady and slow, and it's going to fall and fall into tonight, 10 to 20 more millimeters. So lots of wet stuff. Special weather statement issued, could be up to 60 millimeters in some localized accumulations, especially around the western Red River Valley and the southern Interlake. Got a call on the traffic line here. I just need to update this. Brianne and Juliet both called the commuter line saying northbound Route 90 and Academy are really backed up because of closures of the middle and curb lanes on the northbound St. James Bridge. So issues there coming off Kenniston. 788-3093 if you do want to reach us. And thanks so much, Brianne and Juliet, for the update there. Well, we have some music from Alessia Cara, who I thought actually sang a beautiful rendition of "O Canada," the national anthem, on Saturday night at the Jays game in Toronto. But she actually has some music out that features Julia Michaels as well. This tune's called "Nighttime Thing."
I think I like you like that. I think I like you like that. I just might like you like that. I think I like you like that. I was thinking that you could think of leaving your toothbrush. I'm just saying there's no rush to go home. Way you're making my cheeks blush got me feeling like you just might be more than a small crush. Now I know we don't gotta be just a nighttime thing. Maybe we could see what the sunlight brings. All the other guys couldn't find where my heart is. Now I'm picking petals from gardens. I think I like you like that. I think I like you like that. I just might like you like that. I think I like you like that. I wanna make you some breakfast while you're stretching and yawning. I'll give you love at 2 p.m., not just at 2 in the morning. I wanna know all your secrets, if we're just being honest. Got a lot of clothes, but I can make some room in my closet. We don't gotta be just a nighttime thing. Maybe we could see what the sunlight brings. All the other guys couldn't find where my heart is. Now I'm picking petals. I think I like you like that. I think I like you like that. I just might like you like that. I think I like you like that. Didn't see it coming, oh I didn't see it coming. I'm feeling something, boy, I think I'm feeling something. Didn't see it coming, oh I didn't see it coming. I'm feeling something, yeah. This ain't gotta be just a nighttime thing. This ain't gotta be just a nighttime thing. I think I like you like that.
Alessia Cara and "Nighttime Thing" singing there with Julia Michaels. Tonight, speaking of a nighttime thing, on Radio Noon, they're talking baseball fever and how we can channel the hype around the Jays into love for local teams. If you want to weigh in, call into Radio Noon today at 12:30, and you can be part of the conversation. And tonight, the nighttime thing will be the Jays, of course, in Game 3 of the World Series against the Dodgers, and they are in L.A. It is coming up to 8:30, but first we do want to dip right back into the story we've been following all morning. U.S. President Donald Trump last week saying he's terminating trade talks with Canada. Prime Minister Mark Carney turning his focus to Asia, attending summits in Malaysia and South Korea this week. He's pitching Canada as, quote, a reliable partner. Some experts say turning our focus elsewhere might just end up bringing the U.S. back to the table in the process. Frank McKenna now weighing in, former Canadian ambassador to the United States. Here's what he had to say about Carney's attitude in the wake of trade uncertainty and tariff threats.
I just listened to a speech from Asia. It's extremely aggressive about diversifying the Canadian economy, investing within the Canadian economy, $500 billion in investment, in growth, and investing in Asia, $1 trillion diverted towards Asia. So I think he's doing the right things. Trust but diversify. To paraphrase Ronald Reagan, we need to continue to work with the United States because we're their neighbor and biggest trading partner, and that's not going to change. But we need to diversify so that we end up having leverage in the talks. I always recall from my time in Washington the words of Will Rogers, diplomacy is the art of saying, there, nice doggy, until you can get your hand on a big rock. And for us, the big rock is leverage. We need to diversify and have our aluminum going to Europe, or potash going to South America, or oil going to Asia, critical minerals, whoever pays the best price in the world, so that the United States comes to us and bend at knee and say, look, we need Canada, we need the diversity of your raw materials. That's what happened in 1989. That trade agreement was around energy security for North America. The unfortunate thing is that it takes time. It's going to take time for us to diversify our resources. We made the mistake of trusting so much in America that all of our oil is flowing south, instead of diversifying and having pipelines going around the world. And the same is true for other commodities. And it's going to take us time, and we're going to have to go through pain to get there. But we have to use this moment of crisis once and for all to diversify our economy.
Your CBC Winnipeg News is next.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg at 8:31. It is 11 degrees. The rain seems to have stopped for now, but we will see more, 15 to 25 millimeters through the day, more tonight. Windy today. Our temperature falling to 9 this afternoon. Winnipeg's newest city councilor says one of her priorities is to improve transit in Elmwood, East Kildonan. Emma Durand-Wood won Saturday's by-election with 31% of the vote. She says she spent a lot of time on the campaign trail listening to constituents. Durand-Wood says the recent changes to transit are having a big impact.
Stop placements, there's been some concerns from folks. I talked to one gentleman who's vision impaired. He bought his house because of the proximity to transit, and now it's all changed. So that's a big challenge. So, how can we meet the needs of those folks?
Durand-Wood says her other priorities include the root causes of crime, homelessness, and reducing residential speed limits to 30 kilometers an hour. New numbers show more than half of the people let out with an ankle monitor in Manitoba end up being rearrested or breaching their conditions. But experts and people involved in the system are divided on whether that means the program has been a success or a failure. Justice Minister Matt Wiebe thinks the devices are working, in part because of how they use GPS to help police find people who have broken the rules.
That's a tool that we just didn't have before, and that just gives law enforcement an incredible amount of information. Otherwise they'd be really in the dark.
But University of Winnipeg criminologist Michael Weinrath says the latest numbers, which he calls stark, show the ankle monitoring program isn't working. The government reintroduced that ankle monitoring program in August of last year. It had been scrapped in 2017 after a review found the devices were often inaccurate and ineffective. Tenants at a West Broadway apartment building say they have endured a summer of chaos after new owners started extensive construction in July. Some people living at 640 and 644 Westminster say contractors entered their units without giving enough notice amid nonstop renovations in August and September. Madeline Bowen recently signed a new lease with the previous owner. Bowen says it's been miserable living there ever since Chandon Homes Limited took ownership in late July.
We can't, call our home a home when they're actively trying to flip it on our heads.
Chandon Homes says the building is more than 100 years old and needs upgrades and claims it gave tenants enough notice. But emails viewed by CBC News suggest notices were sent to tenants less than a day before the proposed entry time. The residential tenancies branch requires 24 hours written notice. The Manitoba Association of Crown Attorneys says the province is failing to meet its urgent needs. It filed a grievance over workloads 2.5 years ago. That was set to go to arbitration with the province last week, but the association says it agreed to mediation instead, a process that broke down. Ben Wickstrom at the Manitoba Association of Crown Attorneys says body cameras worn by RCMP have created more evidence for Crowns to go through, and proposed changes to the criminal code by the federal Liberals would mean even more work. But the province, he says, isn't offering up the resources.
It means Crown attorneys are spending more time in the courtroom fighting things out and advocating for the Crown's position, and you need more Crowns to do that. It really is the bottom line.
In a statement, Justice Minister Matt Wiebe says he is disappointed and surprised the union walked away from negotiations, but says the province is prepared to stay at the table. The union says it's arranging new dates for arbitration. Federal Conservatives were in Winnipeg yesterday pitching their plan on bail reform to supporters. Conservative justice critic Larry Brock says the government's proposed bail legislation doesn't come close to the Conservatives' jail not bail plan.
Jail not bail would repeal the principle of restraint, take away that instruction, take away that mandatory directive, and replace it with the presumption of public safety and protection.
New proposed legislation by Ottawa says an accused person should not be released if their detention is justified, including for protecting public safety. You can find more news updated throughout your day. Just head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Heather Wells and Joni Niccolo and Megan Ketchison. Big thanks to all of them in our news center. Thanks to our live team, Corey Funk, Abby Adiemi, and Darren Mirage. Woo! Those that put items together on today's show, Jenna Badasso and Sierra Sanders, associate producers, and reporter Caitlin Gowerlich for coming in as well with more on that ankle monitoring story. The leaders in unit, Nellie Gonzalez is the show's producer overall, and Leif Larson is the executive producer of audio at CBC Manitoba. Thanks, everyone, for listening. We got to have a last look at our commute here and then some weather. Corey?
Northbound St. James Bridge, all lanes are now open, but there might still be some backups on Academy and, of course, northbound Route 90 as well.
Abby?
Southern Manitoba is going to be dealing with steady rainfall, heavy rainfall in some areas. Special weather statement. We're going to see temperatures drop to around 9 degrees, while up north we're going to see cool and mild temperatures with lots of sunshine.
All right. Thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening wherever you listened from this morning. And come back, won't you? We'll be back tomorrow with another edition of Information Radio right here on CBC. 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app on YouTube. Take care. Have a good day. You won't be dry, so I won't say stay dry, but enjoy the rain. It can be peaceful as well. And we'll talk to you tomorrow.